calling the meeting to order. Anson, please do a roll call to determine attendance and quorum.
Okay. When I call your name, please say here. Zane?
Here.
Watson? Bozo?
Here.
Nagaji?
Here.
Ukumoto?
Here.
Ukumoto? Okay.
Here.
Lumen?
In here.
Lumen?
Here.
Lee? Phil Lee? Okay. Joanne Koff?
Here.
Okay. Diane Chong?
Here.
Okay. Christopher Moylan?
Here.
Okay. Jason DeMarco? DeMarco? Okay. Guano? Oh, okay. Guano?
Here.
Okay. Robert Fox? Fox? Okay. Joseph Mishreki?
Here.
Okay. That's 11. We have quorum.
All right, thank you, Anson. We have quorum. I'll also note real quick that I got a call from her earlier, and she let me know that she wouldn't be able to attend the meeting tonight. So
Okay.
Member Watson did have something come up, and that's why she's not able to join us currently.
Okay.
But now we're going to move to Roman numeral 2. First, I'll just note that we do have a pre-packed agenda because there were a lot of items that members wanted to do this meeting. So timekeeper, please be tight and on time. So we'll go to Roman numeral 2A, Honolulu Fire Department. Please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Jacob Nakajima, Captain of the Honolulu Fire Department at your fire station, Engine 22. We had, our statistics for October was activated alarms, no fire, 9. We had 53 medicals and 3 vehicle crashes. And we have a timely safety tip is kitchen and cooking fire safety. So cooking is a leading cause of home fires. Protect yourself, your family, your neighborhood by practicing prevention tips. While you guys are cooking, stay in the kitchen. Don't leave stuff unattended. If you leave the kitchen, turn off the stove. Keep items away from the stovetop and don't store stuff on the cooktop. Keep a lid nearby to smother small grease fires. Smother the fire by sliding a lid over the pan and turning the stove off. And only plug in one heat-producing appliance, such as a coffee maker, toaster, into an outlet at once, so you don't overload the circuit. And create a 3-foot child and pet-free zone around your cooking area. Are there any questions for us?
Do we have any discussion from board members regarding either the fire statistics or the safety tip? If so, please raise your hand. All right, and any questions on any topic? Oh, from the community? Oh, sorry, I'll go with Member Kwano and then we'll go to Shige. Member Kwano, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Captain. I wanted to find out a bit more about the fire that was by the UH faculty housing a week ago or so on Dole Street.
Dole Street.
By St. Louis site.
I can get back to you on that one. Last fire, we went to a fire 2 days ago up the street, but I can look into the Dole Street one. Oh, you know what the address was? Was it St. Louis area?
Yeah, it's like up on a mountain near the UH faculty housing by Waiahia Ridge, I believe.
Okay, I will.
It's
Waiahia Ridge.
it wasn't a big fire, but it seems like the same location have recurring fire every so many months. This is like the second or third within the last few years. I was just wondering what the source of it was, if there's anything that can be done to prevent that, or if it's near any houses or was anything in danger.
A lot of time those are caused when the brush gets dry. You're talking about Wahila Ridge then, when it gets dry.
Yes, I believe that's the area.
So when it gets dry, a lot of times there's a lot of homeless population up there, and then sometimes they cook and do other activities that can spark the fires. It's not always them, but a lot of times when we go up there, it can be. But I can't say that about the last one. I'm not aware of the last one you're speaking of.
Okay, so is there any concern that anything would be done to make sure that doesn't keep happening between HFD or HPD or any?
I'm not
anyone
sure
in
if
the
they could
government?
keep people out of there because, you know, there's a large homeless population around the island. And if you look around, you know, they're all in certain tiny little areas, and those areas have higher propensity for catching fires. Wahila Ridge is wet right now, but you know that one side is kind of dry from being burned out a couple of years ago. But as long as it stays wet, it usually won't get away, and it's raining again, which is nice. Hopefully we're coming to the end of brush fire season and we've made it through another year without losing the ridge again.
So is that because that area is not part of Manoa and it's not in your report? Is that part of St. Louis?
Yeah, that's
area?
gonna be more like a McCully's area. Because they have UH. I'm up from what do you call it? We're more like upper Manoa and the top of UH.
Okay, thank you.
But I can look into it and get the info for you if you want.
Yeah, next month if it's not too much of a hassle.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
I will ask about the Wahila Ridge. I will look into that. Thank you very much for your question.
All right, thank you, Member Kawano, and thank you, HFD. We'll go Krushiga now, and then we'll move on for time. Mr. Krushiga, please go ahead. Oh, Brett Krushiga, are you there? Okay, I'm not hearing him. So
I can stay a little while if he wants to come back.
yeah. Please stay for a few minutes just in case Brett's able to get his mic working. But for now, we're going to move to item 2B, Honolulu Police Department. HPD, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Lieutenant Mura from District 7, East Honolulu. We're going to begin with the statistics for last month. Motor vehicle thefts, we had 10, burglaries at 2, thefts 11, unauthorized entries into motor vehicle at 4. Total cost for service $6,075. Moving on to the tips. So with Halloween behind us, going into our, I guess, wetter season, just some tips on flash flood preparedness. Things you need to know: learn the best routes to high ground where you live, work, play, and travel should you need to evacuate. If your area is prone to flooding, keep emergency materials on hand such as sandbags, wood, and plastic sheeting. Do not allow children to play near streams or drainage ditches. These areas can quickly become deadly, as we all know about flash flooding. And do not attempt to drive or move your vehicle through flooded areas because parts of the road may have already washed out, or the water might be much more deeper than it appears. And that's all I have for the tips and the statistics.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant. Do we have any board members who have a comment or question, discussion regarding the crime statistics or the safety tip? If so, please raise your hand. All right, and do we have any community members who have any questions, any discussion for HPD? All right, seeing and hearing none, thank you, Lieutenant, for your time. We're gonna go back for just a second. Oh,
Thank
one
you.
moment. Brett Krishy just put a message in. Honolulu Fire Department, Mr. Cruciate just wants to say, sorry, my mic isn't working for some reason. I wanted to thank Manoa Fire Station and others for responding so quickly to yesterday's East Manoa fire. Do we know what caused it?
Excellent.
So we had the fire yesterday. Was that, I actually went to that one. That was what? My time's all thrown off. I think that was yesterday morning. And it was at 5 a.m. The house was hoarder condition, so the investigation isn't done yet, but we believe, just make sure, keep ignitable stuff away from heat sources, because when you pack so much stuff in and it gets close to like water, like it wasn't caused by a cooking fire, but it's the same concept. We get storing stuff right against a heat source. We believe that is the ignition source, but the investigation is not done yet, and it was a hoarder house, so there was a lot of stuff packed against a lot of things.
All right, thank you, Fire Department. And Brett says thank you in the chat.
Oh, I see it. You're welcome, anytime.
All right. First responder reports. We are now going to move to item 3A, which is the presentation, which I'm going to be giving in a second. So the item is no agenda and meeting requirements pursuant to the Office of Information Practices. And there was an email that got sent out that I think all the board members, or hopefully all the board members, got from the executive secretary of the board system. And there was also a meeting 2 evenings ago where the chairs and vice chairs got invited to attend and to hear the executive secretary explain the rules. That's Lloyd Yonanaka. So I put together a very quick presentation. It's going to take me about 7 minutes. It's just a Word document. I'm going to just go through it and read through it to try and explain what the new rule changes are and the reason why we have these new rule changes. So I will share screen with that right now. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so no agenda and meeting requirements pursuant to the Office of Information Practices by me, Chair, MNB number 7. So what happened? The Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 92, also known as the Sunshine Law, imposes various transparency requirements on boards and commissions, including the neighborhood board system. A board member at a different neighborhood board filed a complaint with the State Office of Information Practices, which is the agency that oversees the Sunshine Law. And this person alleged that neighborhood boards are violating the Sunshine Law with the way they write their agendas and do their meetings. So the Office of Information Practices, OIP, reviewed this complaint and agreed with the complainer. So the gist of the situation is that OIP issued an advisory letter to Lloyd Yonanaka, the executive secretary of the neighborhood board system, and OIP in this letter described their new interpretation of the Sunshine Law. This interpretation is extremely legalistic. I think they were following the letter of the law, but it has very little to no consideration of what the practical consequences are. So the result is that we need to write more detailed agendas to be in compliance. There's going to be more restrictive rules for meetings, and the chair, in this case that's me, is expected to be the enforcer. So I'm apparently expected to interrupt people if they go off the agenda based on the new rules, and that's the rule for what all the chairs are supposed to do now. So the new rules in general, for board members to be able to discuss a topic, that specific topic needs to be included on the agenda. However, a member of the public can bring up a topic without that topic being on the agenda. So this restriction is only really on board members. Also kind of weird, but if a member of the public brings a topic up first, then a board member can make follow-up comments on that topic. And lastly, if there's a topic that a board member wants to talk about that they can't talk about because it's not specifically on the agenda, then the expectation, according to the letter, is that that member will ask the chair to put that specific item on the next agenda for next meeting. So those are the rules in general, but there's also some rules specifically for our monthly reports that we get from our state and city elected officials and government agencies. So for city and state reports, if the report item includes the specific topics that are going to be discussed, then there can be discussion on those specific topics. if the report item does not include the topics that are going to be discussed, then there cannot be discussion following the report. And this restriction applies only to board members, so members of the public may still participate in discussion. So to give an example, on item 2B, we had HBD on the agenda, and the agenda shows Roman numeral 2B, HBD, and then it says crime statistics for the district and also safety tip. And because it lists those specific topics that HPD was going to go into in their presentation, that allows board members to ask about those topics after the HPD presentation during discussion. By contrast, if you look at our various state and city monthly reports, such as item Roman numeral 4C, Councilman Calvin Say, it lists that he's going to give his monthly report, but it does not include the specific topics that are going to come up, which means that when we get to Councilman Calvin Say, board members cannot bring up topics for discussion or questions or comment after he gives his report. Only members of the public can do that. So I'll also note for future agendas, so after I got the OIP letter, I did contact our officials to do monthly reports, and I told them the situation, and I asked them for specific topics in advance so that we could try to list those topics on the agenda. None of our state or city monthly reports provided the topics, but that might have been my fault because I apparently gave them wrong information. When I first looked at the OIP letter, my understanding of it was that if we listed the specific topics that are going to be discussed by that elected official, then their report would be limited to only those topics. That was my reading of the OIP letter when we got it a couple weeks ago. But after the session with Lloyd 2 nights ago, it turns out we're not limited to only those specific topics. Those are the only topics that we can discuss after the report, but the report can be on those topics plus other things. So for example, the HPD one, it lists crime statistics and safety tip. That means that those are the only topics that we as board members can ask the lieutenant about after his presentation. But if the lieutenant wants to go off onto other topics, he's free to do so. So I'll clarify that to our city monthly reports and try to get the specific topics in advance for future meetings. But for the current one, we don't have any specific topics for city and state monthly reports. So largely because of that, I just put them at the top of the agenda because I think they're going to go by really fast if we can't have board discussion on them. So a few other things I want to note, that was basically the rules. Some things I want to note for people is that at the meeting 2 nights ago on November 4th, there was some wide opposition from the other chairs and vice chairs of other boards. No one seems to like the OIP letter. There were several chairs and vice chairs who announced that they're going to stand up to OIP by being non-compliant with the new rules. And one chair announced that he's going to openly defy the OIP letter in order to create a legal challenge in the courts against the OIP letter. It was also asked at the meeting 2 nights ago of Lloyd Yonanaka, what happens if we as boards or board chairs don't comply? And essentially what he told us was that under the Hawaii Revised Statutes 92, violating the Sunshine Law is a misdemeanor. The OIP letter doesn't change the law since the power to do that. They're not a legislative body or a court. However, if any members of our board are accused of violating the Sunshine Law, then the OIP letter will be admissible at criminal trial as evidence of guilt against us. So that's the penalty for not complying, apparently. So in terms of fixing the situation, Lloyd Yonanaka and the NCO are currently brainstorming ways to work around the OIP letter. It's unclear what that's going to look like. But also, since the OIP letter is based on interpretation of a state statute, the state legislature can counteract the OIP letter by either completely exempting the neighborhood board system from the Sunshine Law or making a smaller change to specifically nullify the ruling. If they put it at the statutory level, that would override the OIP interpretation. So in conclusion, until the NCO or state legislature provides us with relief, this is going to make meetings inconvenient and needlessly difficult, and that's just the truth of it. As chair, I'm going to do my best to minimize the friction that results from this out-of-the-blue rule change. And enforcement or non-enforcement of it is up to me, but it's my strong preference that we attempt to comply with the OIP letter rather than bucking it as other chairs are doing. So that was my presentation on the letter, the rule change of this whole situation that's blowing up with all the neighborhood boards right now. And at this time, I'm going to call on the Anson Wu Zoom box for either Anson or Member Moylan, whoever it is.
Chris is Moylan.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay, so
First of all, Mr. Chair, your take is totally reasonable. Secondly, the intent of that is consistent with the intent of the Sunshine Law, namely, no citizen has to find out that we suddenly decided to start discussing something and they didn't know about it ahead of time because it wasn't on the agenda. That's like actually one of the fundamental pieces of any Sunshine Law, and we should absolutely comply with it. Since I'm holding the Sunshine Law right in front of myself at the moment, so in order for no one else to bust us in case someone else disagrees, I want to remind us of something we all got in our training, section 3.7B2. In any meeting where people are participating by interactive conference technology, the board members shall be visible and audible to other members and the public during the meeting. Our videos are all supposed to be on. We can mute our audio so we don't have cacophony, but the members of the public are supposed to be able to see us, either in person or on the screen. So that's something that on occasion someone could have busted us for, and I hope that maybe we can fix that. Anson has attempted to tell us to do this several times, and he's sort of been ignored, but he shouldn't have to do it. All right, thanks.
All right, do we have any discussion from board members? Any thoughts on the situation? Oh, I'll go to Member Fukumoto and then Tom Heinrich. Member Fukumoto, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your summary of the changes. When I looked at that material, I'm not a lawyer, but I did go to law school. I thought it was really unnecessary for those members of the board who are not lawyers. It's just, I think, more than is really necessary for most board members, and so I did not appreciate getting that letter. I would say that I think I would agree with those chairs who don't quite like the OIP letter, and so what I would say, I would quote part of the Sunshine Law, and this is in the state statute, HRS 92-6. No, I'm sorry. It is 9212D. Opinions and rulings of the Office of Information Practices shall be admissible in an action brought under this part and shall be considered as precedent unless found to be palpably erroneous. Now that's legalese, but let me try to interpret that for people. This is about the role of precedent, and this is about the role of the rulings and opinions of the Office of Information Practices. This says nothing about this letter, which is, I would call, and the other lawyers in this call would recognize what an advisory opinion is. An advisory opinion is not a real case or controversy, in which that's what this particular provision refers to, an actual opinion or ruling, like what happened when the complaint came in and there was an actual ruling about that. That is a ruling or an opinion. The letter is not a ruling or opinion, it's just an advisory opinion. So it appears to me it doesn't count as precedent. It's just there. We don't have to follow it. Well, of course, don't follow my advice. But what I'm saying is that I think there are weaknesses in the position of saying that some attorney in the Office of Information Practices gets to make law that we have to follow. That's not how government works. It's really the third branch of government, that is the judiciary, that gets to interpret law. And so that's what we really have to follow, the actual words of the statute and the interpretation by the courts, the actual courts. The other thing we do have to follow
Elton?
is that, yes.
It's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, can I just conclude?
Yes,
Yeah, real quick.
please conclude.
We do have to follow the the opinions and rulings of the OIP with respect to the actual cases that occurred.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Fukumoto. At this time, I'm going to call on Tom Heinrich. Tom, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Just a couple of quick comments. I really appreciate your presentation on this letter. I have had very limited conversation with some members of the Neighborhood Commission and Neighborhood Commission office staff, and it is a major consternation as to the scope of this letter and its limitations as provided by the Office of Information Practices under the circumstances. Just a couple of things I wanted to note. I believe it was on Monday, October 28 last week, that the Neighborhood Commission formally adopted a resolution, in essence, requesting the legislature at this 2025 session to consider exempting the neighborhood boards from Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 92, the so-called Sunshine Law. And secondly, really what this letter is calling for in its totality really completely eclipses the role, in my opinion, of the neighborhood boards in serving as a community forum. Especially that half sentence in City Charter Section 14-101 that simply says the mission, in so many words, the purpose of the neighborhood boards is to increase and assure effective citizen participation in the decisions of government. Well, to do that, you need to have the discussions and you need to communicate upwards, whatever. Last quick point, as we are all very much aware, the neighborhood boards have no authority. And in that regard, it is the communication, it's participating in the dialogue, and in that way, the limitations posed on this community forum really completely take away the pragmatic opportunities at the neighborhood board meetings to timely communicate with either the elected officials or agencies or whatever. But I especially note again that the Neighborhood Commission has adopted a reso, which is going to be communicated to the legislature, and partly because of this letter just received from OIP. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Tom Heinrich. Do we have any other comment, question, discussion on this topic from any board members or community members? Anyone have a opinion that they'd like to voice on this? Please go ahead, or please raise your hand. All right, I'm not seeing any. So I'll note two things. First thing is that my understanding of the sum total of what the letter said plus what Lloyd said 2 nights ago is that just enforcement of the OIP letter, the new rules is supposed to be up to the chair. I appreciate Member Fukumoto's comments that basically because this was an advisory opinion rather than a ruling on an actual controversy, this is not yet binding law. However, at the meeting 2 nights ago, Lloyd did say that if there is a sunshine complaint, and I know that our board has previously had sunshine complaints brought against various members over the past 4 or 5 years, then this letter would be admissible in court to convict a board member facing a complaint. And I understand that we're currently in the legal gray area, but I do not want us or myself to be the test case. So at this time, I'm going to comply with the OIP letter and try and follow those rules. And if the NCO or the courts let us know that we can disregard it, then at that time we'll disregard. But for now, I'm going to try and follow the OIP letter. Okay. Moving forward to the next item, Roman numeral 4A, Board of Water Supply, Dominic Diaz. I see Dominic on. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
sorry, yeah, I'm out on the road, but so our office didn't prepare a formal Board of Water related announcement for the month, but I will report the statistics. So There were two main breaks last month, both on the first of the month. One fronting 2926 Lowry Ave, and the other fronting 2958 Kaloa Luiki Street. More importantly, the Board of Water Supply began a waterline construction project November 1st. The project is replacing water lines along Kakela Drive and Mohala Way. So I'm not sure that any activities have started yet, but I will provide the board with monthly updates as we go through the project. And if anyone has any questions, you're free to email me anytime. Lastly, just wanted to mention the Board of Water Supply has a lot of vacancies. So if anyone out there is looking for full-time work, contract work, we're looking for engineers, IT, customer service, administrative support, the whole gamut. So if anyone's interested, you can always go to our website, boardofwatersupply.com/jobs. And at this time, if there's any questions on behalf of the board, I'd be happy to take those.
All right, thank you, Dominic Diaz. Per the old, no discussion from board members, but if a community member wants to bring something up, they can, and then board members could follow up on the topic the community member raises. So do we have any comments from the community or from the public other than the board? Going once. Oh, Tom Myrick, is that a raised hand?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Aloha, Dominic. I appreciate the update, especially on what's just started on Kakela Drive and Mohala Way. So that part of the valley, a little bit off the beaten track for most folks, so shouldn't be too much of a problem for most. The two comments that I have is as we start getting ready for the next calendar year and other budget discussions and that kind of stuff, you and I have talked over the years about the capital improvement program of Board of Water Supply, and in fact, the changeover in the department to a 30-year long-range planning horizon, that kind of stuff, which has really helped improve things. My suggestion is if two ways to go about this. If one, you might prepare a short paragraph or something that best exemplifies or provides direction as to how members of the public can easily find portions of the capital improvement program that deal with the respective or their respective neighborhood board areas, because there is a lot of information on the Board of Water Supply website. And then secondly, different topic is any information that you might be able to provide from time to time as to how the department begins to address looking at what I'll label as underserved areas relating to fire hydrants or fire the fire protection water system. Obviously, that is something that has come into a lot of discussion recently and will take a lot of time to address. But that will be also a greater part of some of these CIP projects as they come along. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny you mentioned it. We are currently routing. We're working on our 6-year CIP. We're looking at adoption early next year, first quarter of 25 for the next 6-year CIP. And we are also just starting our third new Board of Water Supply Master Plan update.
Oh,
so
cool.
You mentioned the 30-year CIP. We're going to be taking a look and most likely generating an entirely new 30-year CIP. A lot of new things based on Red Hill, the needs, source needs, as well as trying to accommodate pipeline replacement. So I would definitely keep you guys updated on our progress as well as how you might get involved. I know there's going to be a lot of stakeholder outreach for the water master plan portion, and I will definitely keep this board updated as to where we are. And we are currently involved in several initiatives related to wildfire mitigation. So I'd be happy to put something together in the next couple of months as to what we've done and some of the things we're looking at moving forward.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Dominic. Do we have any other comments or questions? Once, going twice. Okay, thanks for the report, Dominic, and we will see you
All right.
next month.
Thank you.
All right, we go next to 4B, Mayor's Representative Kim Sparlin. Kim, please go ahead.
Good evening. Happy November. It's crazy that it's November already. The start of the meeting, I put the link to the mayor's newsletter. In there, you can see additional information regarding the sewer fee proposal, Honolulu Pride Month in October, and the city's participation in that, updated flood maps from FEMA and what that could mean for homeowners, or some information in there on that. Obviously, I hope everyone heard about the miraculous Kamehameha student that was unfortunately separated from his team and stuck at sea for 12 hours, and how our first responders came together and to save him. I'm gonna put some contact information in here because 3 major things we want to talk about and make sure that you guys are aware of, and then have places that you can go find additional information. The first one is, again, on those sewer service charges. So, Chair, if you haven't already done so, to reach out to Director Babcock or Deputy Director O'Keefe to schedule a presentation for this board. I'll have that contact information in there for the record. The neighborhood plan review, kind of ironic given the conversations that we were just having, is being conducted currently. The committee that's doing that review meets the 3rd Monday of every month at 6 o'clock. So if you have any questions, you can contact the Neighborhood Commission office. I suspect that if you have any suggestions, maybe you can give them a call as well. I'll have a link to a website for the Alawai pedestrian bridge, so that you can see how that's moving along and how you can get engaged in that. So I'm going to hit enter here real quick. So that's all in there. Before I get into the report outs and personally get distracted because I did that something, I just want to give a personal and administrative mahalo to Council Member Say, to him and his office specifically, for not only supporting the Mānoa community in the way that they do, but really the island at large. I've been fortunate to work with Council Member Say in a couple different capacities over the last 20 years. And I would say that it's always been his position that even if it's not his constituent, that he will step in to help in any way that he can. So I'm going to miss him in that spirit and the learning. And I wanted to share that before I forget to do that in this venue. To follow up from requests from actually 2 months ago, and we didn't really have complete answers last month, specifically for a couple of parks things here. Member Fox had raised concerns about Ivan at Kamanali Park. So District 7 all-terrain vehicle detail did make visits to Kamanali Park and Manoa Valley Park, and unfortunately did not observe any homeless individuals when they were there. So again, encouraging folks to call 911 if there is an immediate safety issue. In the chat, I included the phone number to CORE, so the community outreach team that can assist those houseless individuals. So I've included that. So if it's not an immediate need, by all means call CORE and let them know. So EMS can provide non-emergency medical services for those experiencing houselessness. And then obviously 911, police, fire, and ambulance can handle more serious issues. For the pickleball, there was a question about any complaints at other parks. And there was one noise complaint at Ainakoa Neighborhood Park, but this was more about noise being generated before 7 a.m. And so DPR staff talked to those players and talked about the concerns that they had and the impacts on the neighborhood, and there were no complaints after that. The Manoa lights, I know that we talked about that last time and I thought we had a complete answer, but just to confirm that the lights were inspected the week of the September 13th, so just shortly after this meeting that they were inspected, and the time clocks were adjusted and the lights were functioning back as they should. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. And if at any time you see any of those issues, by all means, reach out to park staff. And that is going to be the same thing for the next one, and that has to do with trash. So park staff does daily pickups, you know, throughout the park with the refuse crew. They will be reminded and have been reminded since then to dispose of any paraphernalia that they find appropriately and safely. And then again, if you see anything, just reach out to the park staff. You don't have to do it. I understand sometimes maybe they're not there yet. And thank you for doing that. It is our community, and we've got to look out for each other. And that being said, that's my report. I am open to questions and happy to follow up on issues and bring them back at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Glenn Ochagrill, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I live near Mānoa Stream, just across from Mānoa Gardens, which is near the bridge along Kahaloa Drive. Back about 20 years ago, there used to have a plate right before the bridge in the stream that would help push the stream a little bit faster. And during that 2004 flood, the plate got flushed downstream, never came back, and some party tried to replace it a couple of months later, but another flush came downstream and flushed that plate too. And after that, nothing happened after that. And I was wondering, which party is responsible for replacing plates of that nature in Mānoa Stream? Is it the city or the state or a federal party?
It may depend on the location, so we're going to have to take that exact location. You said across Mānoa Gardens, Kahaloa Drive Bridge, and then we'll have to look and see who owns that section. It should be a coordinated effort, though, but I can look into that.
Yeah, it's right at the bridge, Kahaloa Bridge. So if you go at the bridge and you look upstream, it's right in front of you. And on the left side is the property for Mānoa Gardens elderly housing, and on the right side is a private house.
Okay.
All right.
I'll follow up with our facilities maintenance department.
All right. Thank
Yeah,
you, Glenn. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just one more thing. I did talk to the DEM about it, but they couldn't give me a definitive answer about who was responsible. Just that it needed to be budgeted or something, because it sounded like a capital project.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Koff, but again, according to that OIP letter, it needs to be something that is related to what a member of the public previously said. Relate to what Glenn Otaguro just said, or is it a different topic?
Well, I was just going to ask about the repair schedule for the Mānoa pool. She was talking about various things that were being repaired, so I don't know if that's appropriate.
Okay. So according to the new rules, you can't ask her at this meeting, but I can put it on the agenda and you can ask her at next meeting. So we're going to try and comply with this and see how this goes.
Okay.
So next meeting, the agenda will have repairs for the pool at Mānoa Park.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any other legally permissible questions or comments? Anita Axon, please go ahead.
But I'm
Anita?
not a board member. Is that all right?
Yeah,
So
board
may
members
I
are
ask-
restricted. It's
so may
non-board
I
members who can
ask-
talk. Yeah, you can
I
go.
asked the
You're
question
good.
about the pool. When is Mānoa pool going to be completed?
All right. We have it from a member of the public, so I guess that makes the question all right. So please answer if you can, Kim, and if not, then please take it back and provide an answer when you have one.
Yeah, I'm gonna stall here for a second while I try and go back to my notes. I think at the last meeting, we talked about the Mānoa pool and the problems that they had when they drained the pool and were making some repairs. So let me see if I can find those notes and then see if the schedule was in there.
Dave, this is Calvin. May I respond on behalf of Kim?
Yes, please go ahead, Calvin.
Okay, I'm going to read my statement. The City Department of Parks and Recreation issued the following statement on October 4th of 2024. Efforts to repair the pool at Mānoa Valley District Park are expected to be finished and the pool reopened by spring of 2025. The pool was initially closed in the beginning of September of 2024 due to the plastic chipping and loose tile along the pool's underwater surfaces. The poor state of these surfaces was discovered when park staff was treating the pool for algae buildup. So in the spring of 2025, it should be completed. How's that, David?
All right, that sounds like it answers the question. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Say.
You're welcome.
See how wonderful he is.
All right, do we have any final discussion for Kim before we go to the next item? All right, thank you, Kim, for taking our questions and making your report. We're going to go now to Councilman Calvin Say. Councilman, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dave. My report is in the chat, and I believe what Kim has stated is a thorough, presentation by the city and the administration and the council. But I'll be happy to answer any questions that the residents may have, but not the neighborhood board members. How's that?
Yeah, that's where we're at. I see a raised hand from Vanessa. Vanessa, please go ahead.
Aloha, Chair Nagaji. May I please express some gratitude to Councilmember Say?
Please go ahead. What's gratitude for?
Okay. Councilmember Say, before you end your term, I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am for your collaboration on various service projects in the Valley. You and your staff have been so responsive and professional, and I wanted to let you know how much I admire your patience and loving kindness. Thank you for being a true servant leader and a supportive mentor. I'm wishing you all the best in your retirement. Thank you.
Vanessa, I'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Sounds good.
Vanessa.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. I see a raised hand from Elton Fukumoto. If he has a legally permissible question or comment to make, please go ahead.
Yes, I do. I'm following up on the previous comment by community member. Council members Say, I am just saluting you on the occasion of your retirement. That in January, you have been one of the record-breaking public servants in Hawaii. You have been a public servant almost continuously since the mid-70s, I believe. You were one of the youngest representatives to ever join the House at the age of 24, and you have pretty much been continuously in public service. So you have an almost unprecedented record of serving the people of Hawaii. And full disclosure, I used to work for you, and I know how to put the people of your district, and you put them first. It was all about public service, serving your constituency, and I just know firsthand how much you meant to the people you serve. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Member Fukumoto. And I will likewise make a legally permissible follow-up to Vanessa's comment and just say that a friend of mine pointed out to me that in the history of the statehood of Hawaii, there have been more state elections with Calvin Say on the ballot than there have been elections without him on the ballot. So he's truly been a fixture of the political scene in Hawaii. And I know that our board has argued with you sometimes, but personally, I'm gonna miss him. All right. Do we have any further questions or comments regarding Councilman Sayer's report?
David, may I just say a few words to say
Yes,
thank
please go
you to
ahead.
all of you all of you as residents of Mānoa, lower part of Mānoa, upper part of Mānoa, your contributions to your community. Without your public participation, voices would not be heard in regards to feral chickens, to albizia trees, to the parks at Mānoa with dog parks, all the different city activities and services that we try to provide. I'm just happy that you folks were all a part of it in learning what the city and county of Honolulu does. So in closing, thank you very much for the privilege and the opportunity of working with all of you, and I enjoyed myself the past 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. We're now moving on to this item, which is state monthly reports. First up is Senator Carol Fukunaga. She sent an email ahead letting us know that she wouldn't be able to attend this month's meeting. So we'll pass by that and go to 5B, Representative Andrew Takuya Garrett. If the representative is here, please go ahead.
I'm here, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just want to keep this brief and just thank District 22, all the voters there for sending me back to the State House. You know, there's no higher privilege than public service, and it's an honor of a lifetime to serve in this capacity, and excited to continue to advocate on your behalf in the upcoming session. I think in past meetings I mentioned that I didn't have any permanent staff on board, but my new office manager just started today. Her name is Takemi Nakasone. Hopefully she'll be able to join us remotely for next month's meeting once you guys figure out I'm sorry, I'm thinking about January. She'll be here for the December meeting. You know, for people who follow politics pretty closely, you know that, you know, we are going to have a new speaker in the House. So it's kind of an exciting time that we're going to reorganize with new leadership. Expect an announcement from the House Majority Caucus tomorrow regarding who our new speaker is going to be, along with our leadership slate, talking about our vice speaker, majority leader, and some other positions. So shortly after that, we should have all of our committee assignments and whatnot squared away. Hopefully by the December meeting, I'll be able to share with the board what capacity I'll be serving in the House in the upcoming biennium. And now that the election is officially behind us, it's never too late to start thinking about bills for 2025. So if you folks have any bills individually that you'd like to discuss with me, now is a great time to start to do that, so we can give our staff ample time to do the research necessary. I'm not sure, you know, exactly what bills I'm going to introduce in totality at this point, but I can let you know that I will be co-sponsoring legislation with several of my urban Honolulu colleagues to exempt Oahu from Senate Bill 3202. This was the ADU bill that the board took a very strong stance against, which I, of course, agreed with. So hopefully by December, I'll have a better sense of what I'm looking at in terms of introducing. But for sure by January, if you guys do decide to have that meeting or reschedule it to the second week or whatnot, have a sense of what I'll be introducing on behalf of the district at that time. So with that, I'll stop there and see if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And I'll just note that whenever our next meeting is, whether it's January or December, I will put a legislation item on the agenda so that board members can discuss legislation with our electeds. With that, is there any discussion, any questions for Representative Garrett while he's here? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So thank you, Representative, for your report. And we are off to C. University of Hawaii at Manoa Updates, Elmer Kai. Elmer, please go ahead.
Hi, Chair. Thank you very much. I don't have a report, just an announcement. We were having a flyover for the military appreciation game on Saturday. It should be around 3:45, 3:30. The game starts at 4. But outside of that, I will have a big report later next month. Thank you, Chair. And open for questions.
All right, thank you, Elmer. Do we have any questions or comments for Elmer? Please raise your hand if so. All right, seeing and hearing none. Thank you, Elmer. We'll see you next meeting.
Thank
And
you.
we're going now to item D. That's Governor Josh Green's representative, Lacey Goshi. Is Lacey here?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm here. Just a couple of updates from the governor's November newsletter. The Department of the Attorney General, they launched a webpage for anyone seeking the department's help with filing assisted community treatment petitions in family court to provide treatment for those with serious mental illnesses or substance abuse that can render them dangerous to themselves or others. The ACT webpage can be found on the Department of the Attorney General's website at ag.hawaii.gov. I'll put the full website in the chat. Also, the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations is having a job and resource fair on Friday, November 22nd. More information can be found at labor.hawaii.gov. For the full newsletter, it can be found at governor.hawaii.gov. I'll put all of the links in the chat. Any questions?
Any questions or comments, Governor's representative? See no raised hands. All right, thank you, Lacey. We are off to the next report, which is item E, Congressman Ed Case's representative, Julia. Is Julia here for Ed Case's office? Going once, going twice. I don't see her or hear her. So we're heading on to the next item. So we're now going into board business. So Roman numeral 6A. So I'm just going to go over this quickly. Board item A is reminders from chair regarding decorum and points of order. And I just wanted to bring this up because there were some discussions that I had with people over the last 5 months since the last meeting. There was a situation, during last meeting with one of the presentations where people were saying things in the chat. I didn't read it myself because I do a pretty bad job of following the written chat during meetings, but apparently it got pretty bad. And at least one person complained to me that it got defamatory. So please remember to not engage in personal attacks or things that attack someone's character. Don't say any accusations that could be construed as defamation. And Anson, if the chat gets out of control, let me know and I'll tell people to please be respectful. If I do that and the chat remains out of control, then Anson, you have discretion to shut it down if it gets bad and uncontrollable in there. So there's that, and just in general, we're also going to try to do a better job of not making personal attacks. And if anyone does make any personal attacks, I as chair will do a better job of interrupting it and telling them to be nice, because I've been pretty negligent in that the past 3 months. And I also just want to make a brief note on decorum, or not, excuse me, not decorum, on points of order. I was talking to Member Moyland, and I don't remember the exact context of the conversation, but it came up that there might have been a situation where there was a hand raised for a point of order that I didn't call on. So I just wanted to give everyone a reminder that if there's a point of order, it basically means that either the board or me as chair, someone's breaking the rules. So if you have a point of order to call, you don't need to raise your hand, you can just shout it out. So that was that. I see raised hands, and I saw a Member Bosel first, so we'll go to Member Bosel, then go to Member Moylan.
Thanks, Chair. First off, I guess I'm sorry that you need to be the recess monitor in this sort of manner, but can I just ask for clarity? Did you say that it was a board member or a community member who said something defamatory last time? I just didn't quite hear you.
I think it was community members who were coming to testify about one of the items we had. They were writing things in the chat that went into personal attack territory, and one community member complained to me that other community members were saying things that were defamatory.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to thank you for doing the job that you're doing. I think it's pretty hard to monitor the chat and all the screens and be running the meeting. So you're doing great.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I saw a raised hand on the Anson / Chris Moylan screen. So was there a comment or a question there?
Oh, no, there's no comment.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion, any raised hands from community members, from anyone on decorum and points of order? All right, we're heading to the next item. That is Roman numeral 6B, Subdistrict 4 vacancies. Do we have anyone who's interested in filling a vacancy for Subdistrict 4? If so, please shout it out or raise your hand. Going once. Going twice. All right. No one's interested in filling those vacancies, so we're going now to board business item 6C. So this is motion to change time and location of monthly meetings. And this was put on the agenda with the anticipation that we were possibly going to go back to in-person meetings at Noelani. Since then, it looks like it's not happening. Ensign can correct me if I get anything wrong, but two issues came up. One was kind of minor, one was pretty major. The relatively minor one was scheduling. I thought that if we went to Noelani, we would need to be adjourned by 9 and then out by 9:30. There was apparently miscommunication or something changed. I'm not sure, but apparently what Principal Gusman meant to communicate to me was that we need to be adjourned by 8:30. So we would need to end half an hour earlier than we previously discussed. So there's that. But the other issue is money, because in order for us to use the Noelani facilities requires the NCO to pay money to Noelani School for use of the facility, to pay for the janitor and so on, and other things. And apparently the Noelani facility is too expensive. So I asked Anson to check with the fiscal people to figure out our exact financial situation. And apparently we can't, we have a budget of 0 for renting out a venue. So in addition to the other requirements of it needing to be big enough for our audience, have enough parking, have good Wi-Fi, have regular monthly availability, in addition to all that, our venue needs to either be free or willing to give us a waiver. And Noelani isn't willing to give us a waiver because then they would need to pay for expenses out of the school's own pocket. So that's the status on Noelani. I know Anson's been working pretty hard to call up other potential meeting locations outside the district, close to Manoa, but not within our boundaries. So I'm not sure what the status is on that. I myself contacted Midpac and Manoa schools and asked them if they had any availability since they're in our district. For various reasons, they both said no. And I know that member Moylan still has been in discussions with Cromie about potentially getting us a place at UH. So I'm going to call on the Anson Wu / member Moylan screen, and then I'll go to member Kawano. So Anson or Chris, whoever it is, please go ahead.
It was me. I thought I should give you an update. As you might recall, the former governor said that he would be completely tied up while they were choosing their new president, which they have now done. What I've heard back from him is he's now on it, but I don't have any further update than that for this meeting. But I shall continue to pursue it.
All right, thank you, member Moylan. And member Kawano, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would just make a comment that I was surprised to hear you say there was 0 budget allotted for rental of the facility. For some of you who used to be on the board a while back before COVID, because I've been the treasurer for a while, I remember the report. They usually allot us funds to be able to rent out Noelani Elementary School. So I'm not sure why they allot 0 right now. Is that because during COVID we turned it into a remote meeting, so now they give us nothing? I don't know who to ask that question. Maybe Anson would know that. I'm kind of surprised to hear that we have no budget. That's what I wanted to say.
I'll call in to answer that if he has the information to answer it.
I don't have the information fully, but I just know we don't have 0 budget, but it's just that we just don't have enough budget for having us to have another location. It's just, we have like 36 boards, and some of them also are paying, we're also paying for their locations also. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Right. I mean, I know you might not have the answer, but it's not quite correct that because Manoa didn't use it and so they took it out from a budget, so now we can't have a meeting. That was just a question that I'm bringing up.
It was just that Noelani was just expensive for us.
But we've been having Noelani for many years.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Tom can answer that. I see him raise his hand, but thank you.
Thanks, member Kawano. And I'll just clarify because my paraphrase of what Anson said was that we have 0 budget, but to say it more precisely, I asked Anson how much we need to lower it by in order for the NCO to be able to afford it. And the response that Anson gave me from the fiscal people was that any amount is too much money. Hence, I paraphrase that to them having 0 money because effectively they're willing to give us 0 for renting things out. But now I'll call on Tom Heinrich and then Member Bosel. Tom, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment here. Looking forward, I would encourage you, Chair, and I'd be very happy to have a discussion outside of the meeting in preparation for this, to place an agenda item on a meeting coming up, having to do with, in essence, encouraging the City Council and the administration to significantly address the budget issues facing the Neighborhood Commission office. This is not a problem that faces only the Manoa Neighborhood Board. We are in the budget preparation time, and that will be that much more formal after beginning of March. So there is still time to make certain proposals. So my request, Chair, is that specifically this item of the budget for the respective neighborhood boards, we craft it for an agenda item at an upcoming meeting. Thanks.
And just to clarify, Tom, is that an agenda item in the form or in some other form?
Probably best in the context of a resolution in order to focus that discussion, but more broadly addressing the issue of neighborhood commission office budget as it affects the overall neighborhood board system.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'm definitely open to that. Member Oso, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Anson, could you just clarify, there is not a specific budget per board for renting things, but rather just the NCO has an overall pool of money, and because we did not use it, we lost it in terms of our own budget for renting things. So it's a first come first serve kind of deal.
I can't say that much. I'm not too sure. They just told me we just don't have enough budget.
But
That's
sorry, to follow up, you know that other boards do have funds appropriated for them to rent out spaces.
Yes.
Oh, man.
That seems insane to me. I would be very interested in a follow-up or yeah. Okay.
Okay. I can, if you can email me. Okay. Is that possible after this?
I just would appreciate you researching it and that being, something that you're following up on next time for a fuller picture.
Okay.
Yeah. And then based on the answers that you get, then I think our board may decide to, raise that as an issue or point of complaint or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see what the full information entails before coming to any conclusions. But if it is indeed true that some other boards have eaten into sort of a general pool of money and it's not per board, that personally to me seems nuts, to be short. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Bosel. And now we'll go to Vanessa. Vanessa, please go ahead.
Aloha, Chair. Seeing that the governor's representative, Ms. Goshi, is still on the line, I was wondering if it would be possible for her to ask the governor for help in this regard, because our tax dollars do pay for the DOE. Maybe he can work something out with Principal Gusman on our behalf, because the meetings were held there for many, many years. Other possibility is maybe community members would be willing to contribute. Do you know how much the hourly rate is?
No, I inquired with Anson on what the rate is, what amount they are able to afford, and so on. And the only response that I got was that any amount is too much. So I don't know what the rate is that we would need to contribute. And I don't know, Anson, can you answer that?
Again, they just tell me that. I'm not in charge of this. They just, I asked them, they say yes or no, or they just told me no. That's it.
Our chair has to go fight.
All right, Ensign got stuck being the messenger of bad news, so he seems to not really the details. He just got handed the bags. Member Mosel, if you see raised hand, please go ahead.
Thanks so much. I just want to say, community member Vanessa, I think that's a really interesting proposal, and I think it's actually probably really possible for our neighborhood to do something like that. I think there's a lot of interest in our neighborhood in having in-person meetings. I guess I just want to express, I think that sets a really dangerous precedent for more well-to-do neighborhoods able to fund in-person meetings if we start to offload that responsibility to individual community members instead of saying that this is an equal opportunity thing for all neighborhood boards to have access to an equal amount of money. So I appreciate that that's like a very proactive way of getting where we want to be, but I think that could potentially set a dangerous and rather undemocratic precedent. And so personally, I just express a lot of reservation in going down that route. But yeah, that's just me. Thank you.
All right. So we pretty much have three avenues, which is either get money in order to pay for Noelani, and we'll follow up with the resolution probably next meeting. We also have the possibility of a UH location that Member Moylan is pursuing. And like I said, Anson is also trying to find alternative locations that are outside of the district but close by for us. So all those possibilities are in play, and we will see next month how those three situations play out. But before we move on to the next item, I'll call on Anson because I see a raised hand there. Please go ahead.
Is the board okay if they go to somewhere like Macaulay's District Park or Palolo District Park? Is that a possibility? Is that okay?
Why can't we use Manoa's District Park?
Manoa's District Park is currently being fixed.
Oh.
It's under the construction. So that's why. And they just offer me suggestions to the board if you guys want to go Macaulay or Palolo, if that's okay. If there is availability on their end.
Is it ready for a vote at this meeting, or is that for consideration?
Oh, no, I'm just asking. We will check on our end, and if we can't find those.
I'll call Member Vosel first, and I'll give my comments. Member Vosel, please go ahead.
Sorry, are you, real quick, are you suggesting like just outdoors in the park?
No, we have meetings in that area, so they have their own buildings.
Buildings, okay.
So their own rooms, so it's not outside.
Rooms that have all the necessary requirements for internet hookup and a hybrid meeting possibility?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
I would also just add to that disclaimer that I would want to make sure that there's enough space to accommodate both board members and our audience for busier nights when we have major issues at the table, and also that there's enough parking for the same reason, because our board does often have higher attendance than other boards, and that doesn't mean that we need to have more space and more parking if we're going back to in-person. But if all of that checks out, then I would personally be open to Macaulay Ely. I think it's at least a lot better than Kapalamahala, and it's technically outside the district, but it's not that far away, so I'm open to it. Vanessa, I saw a raised hand. Do you still want to talk, or? Vanessa? Oh.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think it would be ridiculous to ask our senior citizens in the Valley to be driving at nighttime to attend the meetings. Someplace in Mānoa would be much more convenient. And there are other options because there are other neighborhood boards that meet at church facilities or other places. And I know even you have mentioned before the Seventh-day Adventist facility that's there. Or other options. I just hate that it's been, 5 years now that we haven't met in person. And I think it's a great disservice to our community to not be able to have like community fellowship to discuss issues in person. Please take care of this soon. Thank you.
All right, and so I guess you have some mixed feedback there. So please look into it. I'm not sure if we're going to go with those locations, but if you're able, please look into it so we at least have the possibility to consider, so we have as many options as possible, and we hopefully have a vote at next meeting or the meeting after. And until then, we'll just consider it a holding pattern and move on to the next item. Yeah. So no resolution or no solution to it tonight, but hopefully we'll get a vote next meeting or the meeting after, since we're pursuing these various possibilities. And I will try to get in touch with the 7-Day Adventist Church if I can and see if they have any availability per Vanessa's suggestion. Okay, next agenda item is Roman numeral E. Address the January 2025 meeting's conflict with the New Year's Day holiday. So, our board meets on the first Wednesday of every month, and the first Wednesday of January is New Year's, which is a city holiday, so the NCO staff won't be available to help us run our meeting, which means that we have two options. Either we can cancel the December recess and have it so we recess in January instead and we meet in December, or we can take the January 1st meeting, keep December as recess, and have our January meeting a week later on January 8th instead of January 1st. So those are the two options, but we got to pick one because we can't do a January 1st meeting. I'll go in the order that I saw the hands in. So Member Bosel, then Vania, then Anson. Member Bosel, please go ahead.
I don't mind waiting, but for the comments from the community and other board members, but I was going to propose a motion that we move the January meeting from the 1st to the 8th, Chair.
Okay, I do want to see what others say, just to get a sense of if we're leaning a particular direction. I'll go to Vanita next. Vanita, please go ahead.
Thank you. Mānoa meets on that Wednesday. So we always meet on the second Wednesday of the month. So that's a conflict for some of us.
Okay, and sorry, next we'll go to Robert Zane, and then we'll go on to Anson. Robert, please go ahead.
It's good to know, Vanita. Thanks for pointing that out. But I actually would also prefer. I'm leaning towards pushing the meeting on January to the 8th, and keeping the December recess.
Okay, and I'll next call on the Anson / member Moylan screen.
Hi, yeah, it's me and Anson. So we actually can have we can reschedule the meeting to January 2nd if you guys are okay with that.
Okay.
That's possible. You can do that.
Okay, I'll just ask everyone, does anyone have a problem with January 2nd, just moving it over to a Thursday instead of the first Thursday instead of the first Wednesday of January? Is that a problem for anyone? If so, please say so. And Anson, I'm just going to check because apparently people are cracking down with the OIP, the agenda. We have to follow the agenda and so on. The agenda currently says that we can either change the recess month to December or change the meeting day from January 1st to January 8th. So we're not like violating more OIP rules by doing an alternative solution of doing January 2nd, are we?
Well, technically, this is administrative, so it's okay. We can change it.
All right, we'll take it. Member Garrett, excuse me, Representative Garrett, please go ahead.
A former member 20 years ago. The Makali Mo'iliili Neighborhood Board does meet on the first Thursday each month. So I typically have the Mānoa board on the first Wednesday, followed by Makali the next day. So there may be some electeds who have a hard time doing both. Just want to share that.
Okay. Member Moylan.
Based on the school calendar and how a lot of people like me head out of school from bell to bell, I'm not sure the day after New Year's I could be back. I would much rather do the original suggestion of moving to January 8th. You asked for people's opinions. That's mine.
Okay. So far I'm hearing a lot of January 8th. I haven't really heard anything else from board members. I will note that I talked to Member Watson about this when she told me that she couldn't make this meeting. I let her know that we were going to be voting to change our next meeting day due to the holiday conflict. She indicated a preference for December, but she seemed to be fine with January 8th as well. So I think we're all okay with it. So at this time, Vice Chair Bosa, would you like to make the motion to change our January 1st to January 8th?
Yes,
I'll second.
thank you,
Second.
Chair. I would like to make the motion to move the January meeting from the 1st through to the 8th.
All right. And
Second.
I saw and heard Member Moylan, and I do recognize that there's a Mānoa conflict, but well, I want to make sure all the board members can attend, so I will prioritize the schedules of the Mānoa neighborhood board members in picking our date. So it sounds like January 8th is the best. Do we have any discussion before we vote on this? Any discussion on changing it from the 1st to the 8th? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any raised hands for discussion. So I'll now try to pass this by acclamation. Do any board members object to changing the January 1st meeting to instead be on January 8th? Do we have any objections to that? If so, shout it out or raise your hand. Going once, going twice. All right, by unanimous consent or acclamation, whatever the term is supposed to be, we are now going to meet on the 8th of January rather than the 1st. So it'll be the second week Wednesday rather than the first week Wednesday. So we'll go forward with that, and we will still be recessing in December as originally. All right. A motion to the legislature to adopt government reforms. And this is a follow-up from the presentation that Aria gave to us last meeting regarding this topic. The resolution is basically a collaboration between Aria, with me and Elton doing some feedback and making some edits, but the bulk of it and the substance of it is Aria's work that's also been shared with a lot of other neighborhood boards with slightly different language, but largely the same language. So last time I think Aria had some technical difficulties putting it on her screen, so I'll put it on my screen and read it out loud. And then after I've read through the resolution, Aria can then answer any questions if we have questions. So I will share my screen in just a minute. All right, can everyone see the document okay? Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'm just going to read through it then. So this is our board, our resolution, resolution urging the legislature to adopt good government reforms. Whereas the Mānoa Neighborhood Board number 7 is a citizens advisory board whose purpose is to increase and assure effective citizen participation in the decisions of government. And whereas although the Hawaii State Legislature convened the Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct, CISC, in 2022 for the purpose of reforming basic underpinnings of our state governance, specifically the laws surrounding corruption, lobbying, ethics, and campaign spending, legislators have so far failed to act on some of the proposals included in CISC's final report. And whereas proposals from the final CISC report that the legislature has failed to adopt include the following: an increase of safeguards on campaign contributions, a prohibition on the unilateral power of legislators in leadership positions to kill bills, a way for members of the public to immediately view written testimony ahead of hearings, improvements to the public financing of elections, and placement on the ballot of a constitutional amendment imposing term limits for legislators. And whereas the Hawaii Constitution contains very few requirements for the legislative process, thus allowing the legislature to adopt its own rules of operation and giving the legislature authority to implement rules changes to make itself more transparent and ethical. And whereas the rules regarding the publication of legislative testimony only require release of testimony at the time of the hearing, which impedes committee members and the public from gaining a better understanding of the issues prior to the hearing. And whereas both the House and Senate have adopted rules that give committee chairs the power to decide which bills referred to their committees receive hearings and which do not. And whereas bills that do not create or expend funds are often referred to the House and Senate Finance Committees, despite being non-fiscal in nature, which creates an insurmountable backlog and gives the chairs of the finance committees the authority to pass, kill, or amend bills that should not be in their purview. And whereas co-sponsorship of bills by multiple legislators promotes collaboration and could be used to ensure that bills with broad support receive proper consideration so that popular bills cannot be blocked by a small number of powerful legislators, and whereas bills introduced by request do not always include disclosure of the entity that made the introduction, which allows lawmakers to conceal the entities responsible for certain bills being introduced, and therefore be it resolved that the Mānoa Neighborhood Board respectfully urges the legislature to pass the following amendments to the House and Senate rules before the 2025 legislative session. 1, each committee shall make all testimony it receives immediately available for public review at least 22 hours before the hearing and at least 2 hours before hearing for late testimony. 2, each committee by majority vote shall be able to decide to hear any bill referred to the committee, and committees should not use deferrals as a means of hiding committee member positions on bills. 3, bills that do not create or expend funds, non-fiscal bills, shall not be referred to finance committees. 4, all bills shall be circulated for co-sponsorship to all legislators in their respective chamber, and any bill with at least 17 co-introducers and any House bill with at least 17 co-introducers and any Senate bill with at least 9 co-introducers, at least 1 hearing, and bills introduced by request must include a disclosure of the entity that made the request. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be transmitted to the Governor of Hawaii, members of the 2025 Hawaii State Legislature, and all neighborhood boards. So that is the text of the resolution. I'll open up to Aria if she wants to make additional comment on the rationale for her resolution. Aria, please go ahead.
Aloha, Dave. Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that the version of this resolution has been passed at the downtown Chinatown, Makali, Mo'ili'ili, and Ala Moana Kaka'ako neighborhood boards. And in addition to tonight's Manoa neighborhood board, we have the Diamond Head Kapahulu, St. Louis, Eva, Kaimuki, and Kahili Palama neighborhood board voting on it this month. I think it's really timely, as Representative Andrew Garrett has mentioned. We do have a new speaker coming into leadership, and between now and the start of session, there's going to be lots of discussions about committee chairmanships, and the rules are going to be decided and voted on before the start of the session in 2025. So this is a really great time for everyone to express their desires to create a legislation that works for the people of Hawaii and makes it more transparent and fair and equitable.
Thanks, sir. I'm going to entertain a motion in just a second. I would just briefly add, because the resolution has a lot of technical and procedural language. So I just want to clarify that the reason why I support this resolution and why I'm happy we have it on the agenda is because at the state legislature, there's often a lack of transparency. Oftentimes a bill dies and it's unclear why it died or which legislator caused it to die. It's just the fact that some legislators who have leadership positions have a lot more power than others. And I think the gist of the procedural changes that this resolution is calling for is to allow us to see more clearly how and why bills are dying, so it's no longer mysterious to us, it's more transparent in that regard, and also make it so that every member of the legislature has a more equal amount of influence over what goes on in that building. So it's no longer just a relatively small number of legislators who have an outsized amount of influence and power over legislation. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion from the board members to consider the resolution for a vote. Do we have a motion? If so, please raise your hand. I see Member Fukumoto has a hand raised. Is that a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to adopt this resolution, for the board to adopt this resolution.
All right, Elton, and I saw a raised hand from Robert Zane. Is that a second?
A second, so we can do a discussion on this, on the resolution.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. We're going to discussion now. Please raise your hand if you have a discussion which you'd like to make on the topic. Member Zane, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can I see the resolution again on the shared screen, please, Chair?
Yes.
I had a question about the fourth therefore clause on the second page. Or second page. So it says all bills shall be circulated for co-sponsorship to all legislators in their respective chamber. Any House bill shall be scheduled for at least one hearing. Is that a hearing within did they mean within the full chamber, or do they mean just within the subcommittee?
I think it's referring to committees. That's my interpretation of it.
Okay, I just maybe clarify that in the language, as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
And that was my comment, Chair. Thank you.
So, and that was for number 4. So all bills should be circulated for co-sponsorship to all legislators. Shall be scheduled for at least one committee hearing. That's what you wanted, right?
Yes. Yeah. That should be fair.
Okay. I saw a raised hand from Member Fukumoto. Please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say in general that I support every measure in this resolution. I looked it over. I was one of the people who looked over Ms. Castillo's draft. I think everything is defensible here. It is, I think, tightly limited to one particular set of rules, those rules that the Senate and House make for themselves prior to a legislative session. So this does not include constitutional amendments or changes in the statute. These are just rules that the House and Senate themselves can make prior to a legislative session. And so procedurally, they're rules of a certain kind and not various. And so I think that is a plus for this resolution. And the second thing is, I looked at all of these. They seem to be manageable and things that are plausible and would also affect bring about better government. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member Fukumoto. I'll go in the order that I saw people in. So we'll go DeMarco, then Koth, then Vosel. Member DeMarco, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just was requesting clarification on, I think it's point 4 of the resolution, how those number of legislators was arrived at as the minimum threshold necessary to require a hearing. If you could provide clarity on that, thank you.
Right, and that's 17 co-introducers for House, where there's 51 total members, and 9 co-introducers for Senate, where there's 25. So it's roughly a third of each. So I'll pass it to Aria if she wants to explain why 1/3 is the magic number.
Yeah, exactly. It's about a third. We thought that would be a good number that would bring it kind of above any of the factions and be a broad representation of the general 51 members of the House of Representatives or the 9 members of Senate.
Sounds reasonable. Thank you for that clarification.
All right, thank you, Member DeMarco, and thank you, Aria, for explaining. Let's go to Member Koth. Member Koth, please go ahead. Now, she'll put her hand down. We'll go back to Member Koth. Member Bolso, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. 2 quick questions. One is oh my gosh, I completely just blanked. Oh yeah, were any of the other neighborhood boards that passed this, did they do any amendments to?
No, the other neighborhood boards that have passed it, they had slightly different languages because each of when I proposed the resolution to the board, they kind of looked at it. Some members have added a couple of rules that they wanted to see. Some have taken away. I believe that the downtown resolution and possibly the Kaka'aka one also includes statutory changes that they want to see the House and Senate pass, including campaign finance law changes.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing was just in regards to the change that we just did to the committees versus the whole chamber. Are there any committees that meet without a public meeting? Like, so this requires that the committees hold a meeting on this, but are all of the committees meetings publicly noticed and publicly attendable?
I believe that all the meetings are
Open
public
to the
notice. The only meetings that would be in private would be a caucus meeting, like the Democratic majority might meet in private and discuss some of the bills that are going on, but all the decisions would be made in the committee hearings, that's the appropriate way to change the language.
And all of those committee hearings would be able to be attended by the public and also have testimony by the public.
Yes. So the
Okay.
bills that are introduced will get a first reading, and the whole House is there in session, and they will move them on, and then they'll get committee referrals. And then when the bill gets a committee referral, say it's referred to housing, if a bill has 17 or more people that have signed on, then the chair of housing would automatically schedule a hearing for that bill. That's the intention.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member Boso and Arya once again. Member Fukumoto, I saw a hand raised, but you took it down. Did you have any question or comment?
Somebody took it down for me. I didn't take that. I would like to speak.
Please go ahead.
Member Boso, all committee meetings are open to the public by law, and they must be properly noticed. So the public must be given 48 hours notice. If notice is given less than that, then it's not an effective meeting unless there's a waiver on the floor. And all testimony, all committee meetings have testimony. If they are hearings on bills, there's some other kinds of hearings which are just informational. The one change that we have is number 2. Here is that if I could just read it. This is one of the amendments that's slightly different. And this one says that each committee by majority vote may be able to decide to hear any bill referred to the committee. Okay, so for that one, right now, the committee chair can kill a bill by deciding not to hear it. This one says that a committee can override that by deciding the committee itself can vote to hear the bill. And that is a simpler idea than having the committee vote to decide to hear or not hear every bill referred to committee. That would take a much longer time. So this amendment, I think, is much more efficient with respect to time.
All right, thank you, Member Fukumoto, for the comments. I do want to guess to if there's 1 or 2 last-minute questions or comments from the board or from the community. Please raise your hand. Just 1 or 2 last-minute questions or comments. Going once. Going twice. Okay, not seeing or hearing any. So once again, we're going to try to pass this unanimously by acclamation. So I will just ask the board members, is there anyone who objects to this resolution? If so, either raise your hand or shout out that you object to it. Going once.
Oh, wait, Chair Nagaji, was there amendments made to the resolution or no?
Member Zane made a friendly amendment to insert the word committee. Do we need to have a vote on that?
Okay, if it's just a friendly amendment, then it's okay, never mind. That's
Okay.
good.
So thanks, Anson. So again, any objections? Going once, going twice, All right, I see and hear none, so we pass it unanimously by acclamation. Congratulations, Aria. You have another neighborhood board that signed onto your resolution, and I'll follow up with Anson after meeting to get this signed and distributed to all the people. All right. Thank you everyone for getting through that with us. We're now going to another document, which is the motion to send a letter to Department of Transportation Services regarding outdated language on parking removal surveys. So this came up briefly during last meeting with Mr. He and his resolution, or excuse me, his effort to get a no parking area designated near his house. The form that he was given by Department of Transportation Services told him he had to get a bunch of signatures and then present it to our board and have our board send it to DTS on his behalf. But then member Watson and Kim Sparlin did some digging and found out that information is incorrect. So member Watson requested that we send a letter clarifying what the language should be so that the information is correct for future people who seek to get this sort of thing done at their home. So member Watson did request this, and she's not here today, so I'm comfortable sending it out because I think the letter that member Fukumoto and I co-drafted accurately captures what member Watson wanted. So do we have a motion to consider this letter for passage? Member Fukumoto, please go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to move that we consider this, to send this letter out, approve this letter.
All right, and do we have a second?
I'd make a second.
All right, motion by member Fukumoto, second by Vice Chair Bosel. I will put it up on the screen in just a second, and I'll just read through it. Okay. See it okay? All right, I see a nodding head.
Yes.
All right, so November 6th, that's the date. This is to Director G. Roger Morton of the Department of Transportation Services. That's his address. Aloha, Director Morton. The Manoa Neighborhood Board number 7 would like to request changes to the language which the Department of Transportation Services uses on its parking removal surveys. Recently, a Manoa resident named Michael Key requested that street space close to his home be designated as a no parking area. In response, the Department of Transportation Services gave Mr. He a parking removal survey, which read as follows, italics added. We, the undersigned, have read and understand the information printed below concerning changes to the traffic controls. The responses given next to our signatures indicate our position regarding these changes, restricting parking on the Kokohead side of Oahu Avenue from the driveway of 2245 Oahu Avenue to Ka'ala Street. Please circulate the survey to all the residents / property owners on both sides of Oahu Avenue / Ka'ala Way / Ka'ala Place. This survey, with a goal of 90% favorable response, should be submitted to the Department of Transportation Services through the Manoa Neighborhood Board. While support of the Neighborhood Board does not guarantee that the requested changes will be implemented, we find it the best forum for neighborhoods to express their viewpoints regarding parking issues. So that's what the form said. Now, based on a plain reading of the italicized portion, the chair of our neighborhood board, which is me, had believed that it was necessary for our board to pass a resolution or take some other official vote so that the document could be properly submitted to the Department of Transportation Services through the Manoa Neighborhood Board. However, inquiries by a board member, Ellen Watson, and a representative of the mayor's office, Kimberly Sparlin, revealed that this is not the case. The above italicized language is apparently outdated. The responsibility of the neighborhood board in this process is simply to allow a party to present a proposed traffic control change to the board so that the public has notice of the potential traffic control change, then enter confirmation this item was discussed into the board minutes as a matter of record. Consequently, the Manoa Neighborhood Board number 7 requests that the content of the parking removal survey be changed in 2 ways. Firstly, that the above italicized portion be deleted to remove instructions that are outdated or otherwise incorrect. Secondly, that new language be added to accurately explain the responsibilities of the neighborhood boards in the approval process. We believe that such changes would avoid future confusion, both for the various neighborhood boards of Honolulu and for private citizens who are seeking to navigate this process. Mahalo, the members and officers of the Manoa Neighborhood Board number 7. It would then have our vote total. I would sign. It would be sent to the mayor, Lloyd Yonanaka at the NCO, and all the members of the Honolulu City Council. So that's the letter up for discussion. Do we have any discussion before we do a vote on it? If there is any discussion, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Oh, Member Fukumoto, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that I reviewed the letter, which is primarily drafted by the chair, and it struck me as being very well written and representative of what Member Watson wanted. Also, that I think it'd be very helpful for our board to have this clarified and to have that particular department make the necessary changes, because they really are unrepresentative of what should be happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Fukumoto, and likewise, I very much appreciate you assisting with revising and co-drafting on this letter. I think it definitely improved the product from what it previously was. Do we have any other comments or questions from board members or community members? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm hearing no other raised hands or comments or questions. So at this time, I'm going to try to move it out with a unanimous or acclamation vote. So if anyone on the board objects to passage of this letter and sending it to the mayor, the NCO people, and the city council members, if anyone objects to that, please raise your hand or shout out that you object. I'm going once, going twice. Okay, seeing and hearing no objection, the letter is approved unanimously. And as with the resolution, I'll follow up with Anson outside a meeting to make sure this gets signed and sent out in a timely manner. Okay, we're now moving to the formation of committees. So we have 4 committees up for discussion. There's a Planning and Permitting Committee, Energy and Environment, Mid-Pacific Institute and University of Hawaii, and then Proactive Solutions to City Problems. So we'll go in order. Oh, sorry, Member Watson, excuse me, Member Fukumoto, could you mute your mic? There's some feedback on your end. Thanks. So Member DeMarco requested the formation of Planning and Permitting Committee. I think this is basically going to be a successor to the committee that Mayor Vosel was chair of a couple of years ago in terms of the issue it looks at. It's a different name. It's not planning, zoning, and land use. It's planning and permitting, but I think the purview is basically the same thing. And this also kind of falls under what Member Koff suggested about having a committee to look at development projects, because I think that's largely what this committee would be. So Member DeMarco, would you like to tell us about your ideas for the Planning and Permitting Committee?
Well, thank you, Chair. I think you actually summarized it very efficiently, that it is intended to be a venue for more in-depth discussion and review of proposed development and topics of a zoning and building permitting nature that may be affecting our community, to free up time during our full board meetings to receive reports of the committee and move more efficiently on the matter, and allow the committee to have more in-depth conversations with interested community members.
All right, and I will say, just remembering from how it was with the committees a couple of years ago, it is a pretty big time commitment in terms of making sure that agendas get made and sent out on time for people to get notice. You know, you have to do minutes and jump through a lot of other procedural hoops, which Anson can elaborate on with you. So it is kind of a lot of work to run a committee, but if you are interested in running a committee and there's a person willing to serve as a chair and a vice chair, then I do want to enable members to pursue that sort of thing if they have the interest and they're willing to do all the stuff necessary to get the committees up, to get the committees operational. So do we have a motion to form the Planning and Permitting Committee? If so, please raise your hand if there's a motion to form the committee.
Jason, Jason.
I see. Sorry, I just saw your, excuse me, you got your actual hand up, not your digital hand up, so I didn't notice it. Member DeMarco, you make the motion?
I do with my actual hand.
All right, thank you. And do we have a second?
I will second, Chair.
All right, Member Bosso seconds. All right, discussion. Do we have any discussion on the committee before the vote? Member Fukumoto, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. On the formation of all of the sport committees, I'm going to be Debbie Downer here. I think it is a lot of work, and it also does dilute the power of members of the board to investigate and also to make policy. We are, in essence, delegating part of our responsibility to these subcommittees. They'll do the work, they'll report back to us, and we have nothing. We want to be informed in a direct manner. People will make presentations to their committee, not to us. We'll just have to take the word of members of these committees. I think it's better for us. It might take us more time, but I think it's better for us not to have these committees and just have whoever is interested in these issues make their presentations to us directly. So I will be voting against all 4 of these committees. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Member Fukumoto. I see a raised hand from Member Moylan. Please go ahead.
Yes, and here's the contrasting view. All boards that have large membership, like double-digit membership, cannot work efficiently doing everything as a committee of the whole. Every other board I've ever served on that was big did work in committees. It doesn't mean that only the people on the committees get to hear about stuff, but it means they have more time in between the meetings to delve in and come back, and then the whole board gets to discuss it. So I'm tempted to say I'll vote for all 4 of them. I have to hear the discussion first. I just having heard the motion in the second, that's good enough for me. I'll vote for this one.
All right, any further discussion before we vote? If so, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm not seeing. Oh, Member Bosso, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, my battery died, so I'm plugged in at the moment. Sorry for lack of video, but I would just say to Member Fukumoto that it's also possible, you know, for the board to at any point ask for a repeat of any particularly salient presentations that have been made to a committee to be made to the whole board. I don't think that that would be out of line. If there's anything that, you know, for whatever reason, the whole board feels like they weren't able to attend a committee meeting and they want all the information that got presented in a committee meeting, there's no reason that you wouldn't be able to get that, you know, not just a summary from the board, but and also the minutes. You know, I think there are ways to work with the committees rather than simply saying that they shouldn't exist. I think that an outlet for further delving into some of these more complicated issues is really worth reconsidering.
All right, thank you, Member Bosso. At this time, because we have at least one, I'm going to ask Anson for a roll call vote on the vote to form the Planning and Permitting Committee. Anson, please do the roll call.
Okay, when I say your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Zane?
Abstain.
You're not supposed to abstain unless you have a conflict.
Watson? Oh, yeah, she's not here. Bozo?
Yes.
Nagaji?
Yes.
Fukumoto?
No.
Lumen?
Yes.
Okay, Lee?
Yes.
Okay. Joanne Koff?
Abstain.
Diane Chong?
Yes.
Moylan?
Yes.
Jason DeMarco? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Kawano?
Abstain.
Austin not here. And Mashreki?
Yes.
Okay. That's 8. It does not pass. You need 9.
Can I make a comment?
I'm sorry.
In-
I'll call on Member Moylan because I heard him say that he had a comment. So Member Moylan, please go ahead.
Yes, in all the parliamentary procedure I've ever heard, you're supposed to abstain only if you have a conflict or, for example, approving the minutes of a meeting you were not at. We're on this board to make decisions. We're not supposed to go, well, I'm kind of not sure. I'll just abstain. Given the onerous requirement of a supermajority that we're required to do to pass a vote, if it takes, how many, what does it take?
We need 9.
We need 9. So that passed 8-1 with 3 abstentions. So the abstentions essentially count as no votes, and everyone should try to actually make a call
Chris?
either way.
Um,
Yes.
Okay. Member Zane, or excuse me, Vice Chair Zane, please go ahead.
and so I'm going to change my vote to yes.
Okay, then it passes.
All right.
9 votes.
The committee is approved by a vote. Now we need to appoint at least 2 members, at least 1 chair and 1 vice chair. So do we have anyone who's interested in being chair of the Planning and Permitting Committee? If so, please raise your hand or shout it out.
How about Chase? Yeah, he'll do it.
I see Jason Marco raising his non-real hand this time. Are you interested in being a committee? All right, I see nodding head. Okay, we have Jason. Do we have anyone else who's interested in being the chair of the Planning and Permitting Committee? If so, please identify yourself or raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Okay, we only have 1 person interested in being chair, so Jason DeMarco, congratulations. You are now chair of the Planning and Permitting Committee. But in order to get it off the ground, we need a 2nd person, which is a vice chair. So do we have anyone interested in being the vice chair of the Planning and Permitting Committee? If so, please raise your hand. Member Bosel.
Yes, I would be vice chair. Sorry, again, my battery died, so I had to plug in again.
Okay. All right. We have a Vice Chair Bosel interested in being the vice chair of the Planning and Permitting Committee. Do we have anyone else who wants to be vice chair of Planning and Permitting? Going once, going twice. All right, seeing and hearing no others, congratulations. Member Bosel, you are now the vice chair of the Planning and Permitting Committee. All right, so I'll just leave it up to Committee Vice Chair Bosel and Committee Chair DeMarco to talk to Anson outside of meeting in order to figure out all the things to get the committee formed. And just as a note, community members who are on the board can join committees. Members of the full board can join a committee as long as the board doesn't have a full quorum of board members. So as long as there's less than 9 board members on the committee, it's fine. And just as a reminder, because people have had a problem with this previously at, a couple of years ago, this was a matter of controversy. So just to make it very, very clear, the committees in their own power can't pass things or pass resolutions or send letters. They can only bring resolutions or letters or that kind of thing to the full board for the full board to approve. So just want to make that clear so that doesn't become a point of contention, since there previously been discussions about that. All right, we're going on to the next committee now, which was likewise proposed by Member DeMarco, and this is Energy and Environment. So I'm going to turn it over to Member DeMarco in a moment to explain it and make the motion if he wants to. I would just note for myself, I'm supportive of having committees, but I want to avoid a situation where we have multiple committees that have overlapping jurisdiction. And I'm concerned that there isn't enough energy and environment issues that come before our board to have its own committee, and that the things that the committee is going to have is going to overlap too much with planning and permitting. So am I correct in that, Member DeMarco, or is this going to be substantially different from planning and permitting in terms of its purview?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a very legitimate concern. I had proposed to you a variety of committee potentials for consideration, and I'm perfectly understanding if this has an area of overlap. In my mind, it might more focus on issues that seem to repeatedly come up to the board, particularly relating to topics such as fire safety, might more appropriately fall into that purview, but I can see your point that the quantity of those would be very few in number. So it may be something the board could just address directly if that's what we choose.
Anson / Member Moylan, please go ahead.
Yes, I think there would also be substantial overlap if we form the committee in item J, which would be chartered to deal with all energy and environment issues as well in a proactive manner. So between the one that's already been established and another one that might be established, you're probably right. We probably don't need a separate one.
Okay. Member DeMarco, are you okay with not making a motion, just passing this and just having planning and permitting plus possibly the proactive solutions committee? Is that okay with you?
Yes, I have no issue with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member DeMarco. So moving next to item I, which is the Mid-Pacific Institute and University of Hawaii Committee. Similar concern, just because almost all the time when UH or MidPAC come up before a board, it's in the context of planning or permitting things. So I think that probably everything except maybe traffic issues would already be covered by the planning and permitting committee. So do you feel strongly, Member DeMarco, about making this a separate committee, or is it okay to just have it all rolled into the planning and permitting committee?
You preempted my thoughts about that. That traffic is probably one of the key things that group might look at, but the rest would easily fall under planning and permitting and or proactive solutions. So I'm comfortable passing on this one as well.
I'll take the raised hand from Member Bosel if she has a comment or question.
I was just going to say, we might adjust the name of the first committee back to planning, permitting, and land issues or land use or something like that to, again, sort of encompass these other environmental, traffic, in any of these sorts of issues, which again, I do think would kind of all fall under that same committee purview.
Okay. And Member Kwano, I see you raised hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to say first, I wanted to know, it's this formation of MidPAC Institute and UH committee, is that more geared towards the property at MidPAC, what's going to be done about it, or is it UH in general?
I'll turn that over to Member DeMarco to answer, since he requested the potential committee.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my thinking is that those two large institutional entities within our neighborhood bounds have significant impacts upon us in terms of their land use, potential redevelopment of site, and traffic implications, and that a separate committee may benefit of more time to keep abreast of proposed work or changes or events and what have you that may be occurring at these entities, to convey back to the full committee and to the community, because they often have many things going on at once, and it is potentially time consuming to keep track of. And so the thought might be that a committee could devote that kind of attention to the matter.
Okay, so it's for both institutes, not just for the MidPAC. Okay, understand. And the other question was, I agree with Member Bozo about combining the energy and environment into the planning and permitting, because I feel like there's so many committees that being proposed. It's just going to be taking a lot of resources and time, and I would suggest having combined some of them. That's just my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Kwano. I do think that ultimately, since Member DeMarco is chair and Member Bosel is vice chair of planning and permitting, and they would likely be chair and vice chair of MidPAC and UH if it got formed. It's up to them. Like, I'll support them if they want to have a separate committee, but you know, it's up to them, whatever they think would be better to administer as the likely chair and vice chair of this. So do we have a motion to create a separate UH and MidPAC committee, or are we going to pass on this? I see a raised hand from member Bo, so I can't tell if that's still up from earlier or if that's new.
Apologies from earlier.
Okay. All right, seeing and hearing no motion, thank you for understanding that. I think it is more efficient to just roll it all into one or two committees to avoid overlap and unnecessary administrative friction. So now we're going to item J. This one was proposed not by member DeMarco, but by member Chris Moylan, and it is the formation of a proactive solutions to city problems committee. So I will ask member Moylan at this time to explain what this committee is and what it would do.
Who do you think you are, Moylan? As you know, our work has mostly been reactive. There's some problem and someone decides a solution to it is something like, we're going to upzone the entire neighborhood. And then they just pass some bill and do that. We know what the major problems are, some of which are land use related, some of which are not. You know, traffic, transit, housing, wildfires, floods, and where you're going to put all the people. And the idea for this committee is to have a broad charter of issues, but say, let's anticipate what some well-intentioned elected official is going to do. And ahead of time, let's propose that in Mānoa, here's what we would propose to do for our share of fixing that problem. And so that gets proposed to the elected officials before they come to us with, hey, guess what we decided is going to happen in your neighborhood. I should also mention that in boards that have a lot of subcommittees, there is sometimes some overlap, and that's okay. For example, when I was a planning commissioner, we would sometimes have joint meetings with the Housing and Human Services Commission or the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission. There are some times where committees can overlap, and then they can have a joint meeting. So we shouldn't worry too much about whether there's any overlap. We should worry, as you pointed out, whether there's a committee that's 100% overlap, in which case it probably doesn't need to exist. But the goal here is for us to be proactive, to get some credibility in City Hall that we don't currently have based on what I'm hearing down there, and say, look, here's a solution we've come up with for our neighborhood. What do you think? And that would be a reasonably broad charter. So that's the idea behind this committee.
All right, thank you, member Moylan. I see a raised hand from member DeMarco. Please go ahead.
Thank you, member Moylan, for raising this committee idea. I'm listening to you. I'm kind of wondering if it's more of a legislative advocacy committee where it might be charged with proposing legislation for consideration or tracking bills to report back to the full committee that impacts our neighborhood. Is that kind of the scope that you might have in mind for this, or is that narrower than you had?
That's narrower than I propose because it isn't necessarily all legislation related, although that could be part of it. It could also be city code related. Like, we're sending a letter about parking at one street on one neighborhood. How about a more broad idea? There's this widespread issue of parking in our neighborhood. Here's our proposal as what the code might do. So some of it's code, some of it's legislation, some of it's enforcement. But it's just, here's an idea of how we might fix the problem and do our share as a neighborhood, rather than waiting back and be purely reactive to everything and getting a reputation as being Dr. No. And, every solution that they propose comes to us and we go, no. Well, we should come up with some solutions of our own, and that gives us more credibility.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to form the Proactive Solutions to City Problems Committee. Do we have a motion?
So move.
We have a second?
This is Jason. I will second.
All right, we have a motion from member Moylan and a second from member DeMarco. So we're going to discussion. I do have some of my own thoughts on this, but first I'll ask other board members if they have any thoughts they want to share in addition to what's previously been said? Do we have any discussion? Oh, Member Zane, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Overall, with the public interest groups and these committees, there has been issues in the past with this board in particular about it doing something. I'm looking forward to. I'm always up to seeing if somebody's able to do something with this for once. But usually also because of the issues involved with these committees, I tend to prefer, or the idea of the scope of said committees being a bit broader as well. Would some of what Member Moylan, would some of these matters that you're describing in this proposed committee overlap with the planning committee that was already approved earlier?
Possibly, like for example, housing would be a land use, but it's also a general city problem that they're looking for solutions to. And building more housing is only one piece of the solution. You know, the problem is the gap between supply and demand. So a land use committee would be focusing on the housing supply. This committee could also make proposals about the housing demand because you can attack that problem from both ends of it. So there's some overlap, but not a colossal overlap.
Would it be more effective to have an umbrella committee instead of having these separate ones? That way there's a more fluid and open discussion versus coming up with two committees with even though they may tackle the same problem through different angles. Wouldn't it be better for them to do that in the same committee and produce a more, I guess, overarching proposal to the board?
Well, it would be the board that if it turned out on one of those areas where there was some overlap, it would be the board that would integrate recommendations from the two committees into something overarching. But most of the time, they wouldn't be overlapping. And if you end up with only one subcommittee, that's the everything subcommittee. And then that runs you into the problem that Elton mentioned, where we're, okay, all the work of the board goes down to a few people. And we don't want that. The idea should be multiple members of the board could serve on one or the other on the pieces of the problem they find most, the pieces of what our neighborhood has to deal with that they find most compelling. And then on those areas where there's some overlap, you can either have them meet jointly or have them independently report out what they think, and then we can integrate what we want to do as a full board. I think one committee that does everything probably isn't a good idea. 29 committees that each do a tiny specific thing is also probably not a good idea either. Two committees is perfect. It's like baby bear's porridge. It's just right.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
That
thank you.
answered my questions.
Oh, thank you, Vice Chair Zane and Member Moylan. I'm going to call on Member Kawano, and then I'm going to make some comments of my own, and then I'm going to move us on for time to a vote. So, Member Kawano, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to bring this to maybe the new call. We had committees, boards. I think one of the, and of course back then, I think that's the first time, so we didn't have any boundaries or rules. But I recalled the committee at that time, we had a scheduled University of Hawaii presentation on the development that was scheduled to be at the full board. But for some reason, the subcommittee pulled it into their subcommittee meeting, which means that the general public did not get to see that presentation, and they were having issues with not taking notes. Also, if I recall, there were audio issues. So a lot of problems. So I want to make sure that, this time around, there will be some rules and regulations and boundaries that you do not deprive the general public of viewing any public presentation that was scheduled. That will be why I don't support that. And I think some of you who've been here, you remember what I'm talking about. I was very disappointed because we had planned for Elma to present something that was of concern to a lot of people. The subcommittee somehow got meeting to a side meeting that nobody else got to see that. That's my comment. That's why I have concerns about this. If it's not being run properly, I feel like this is the wrong way to go. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Kawano. Member Vosel, sorry, I see you have a raised hand. I think you want to respond to that, so I'll have you go ahead before we call time.
Thank you, Chair. I do just want to respond to that. I want to say any member is available to, I know what is being discussed in terms of that meeting that the UH presentation was at. That was publicly noticed to, just in the same manner, you know, full sunshine law with more than 10 days notice to the public. Anybody could attend. The issue with the connection was due to the NCO. So we had to wait a while before the NCO finally started to stream it, because we tried to both have in-person and streaming available at those times. And due to 2 meetings, I believe we said that in future, they would only be in person and not streamed, but they were still, again, completely open to the public, and meetings were made public. And I believe actually that no other meetings took place after that, because I, as chair, honestly, my mom died and I stopped holding meetings that were immediately after that moment, and sort of took a little break from being chair of the committee. But there were also always notes that were produced and are available public, and you can go back to, right, like to this day, in the same way that you can find past meeting notes from the Mānoa Neighborhood Board, you can find past notes from the committee up there. All of the committee's meetings were made, notes were made, and they were made public. And I also sent the presentation that Elmer provided at that committee out. The PDF that he just sort of went through was made public for anybody who asked for it, and was sent out to everybody. And I made quite a bit of effort to make that available in links to all the neighborhood board members, as well as to the general public, beyond what was just publicly noticed and in those. So
I'm sorry about your mother. I didn't, my condolences. But I still stand by my objection that presentation should be presented to the general Mānoa Neighborhood Board and not to a subcommittee. Because I have a member of the committee that I heard from that they said they missed it because they thought they were kind of confused why there's a general meeting on the first Wednesday and all of a sudden this is subcommittee. So it's a little bit confusing for the member of the community. So I recommend, if we are going to do the subcommittee role, that subcommittee should just maybe have discussions and gather up strategies and present it to the general board, and not have any kind of official presentation. That would be my recommendation. Because if it's meant to be like the UH presentation that we're talking about, it was slated to be at the general meeting and it got pulled. And then that's when I think it's wrong. So you can have subcommittee, just have discussions and talk about the community, the residents' concern, and present it to the general board. But you should not pull any official presentation away from the official Mānoa Neighborhood Board meeting on the first Wednesday of the month.
Okay. I'm just gonna say very quick response from Member Moylan, very quick from Member Vosel, and then we gotta move for a vote. So Member Moylan, very quick response if you have one.
Yeah, the concern goes again to the heart of the Sunshine Law, right? That nothing should get decided if the public doesn't get to see the evidence. The way I envision this working is, if it turns out that the committee that's already been formed, or possibly the second one, if it does get formed, if any presentation occurs that the members of the committee think is relevant to what they're going to recommend, it would be repeated at the full board. So the committee members would sit through it twice, but then the board would all get to see it. Oh yeah, we're having to dance here because they have a motion detector and the lights turn out if we're sitting still for too long. So Anson is dancing. Anyway, so the intention would absolutely to be what you recommend, and bring any relevant information that the committee did while rolling up their sleeves to the full board, so they can see what persuaded the committee members of what to do.
All right, thank you, Member Moylan, and I'll just very quickly call on Member Vosel for a quick response, and then we're going to do the vote. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair. I agree. I think there should be full transparency. I will just add, I did not pull any presentation from the general. I just gave an opportunity for a more extended, we had a 45-minute presentation from Elmer instead of, I believe, the 10 or 15-minute presentation that he gave to the neighborhood board, which there just simply is not time for him to go through all of that sort of thing. And also there was no action that the committee took. It was just about getting an idea of long range plans, which I have since, tried to break into multiple meetings here by contacting for a follow-up with the UH, not with Elmer, but with other folks in the more relevant departments about sort of land use issues and breaking that down into further things. But I would agree. I don't think that the committees should be trying to take a lot of action on, or even recommending actions that are anyway are opaque to the general board or certainly to the community. I think it's just an opportunity for getting a 45-minute or hour-long presentation where there's not that possibility for that sort of call and response and more in-depth conversation and presentations in the format of our 3-hour meetings, when we have usually an hour and a half of just sort of general board business before we even get to anything else. So I hear your concerns, but I
Sorry,
don't
sorry,
want
remember also, I gotta cut you
move
off for
into that
time.
realm.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, Ensign, I think we've all said what we have to say. Please do a roll call vote for formation of the Proactive Solutions Committee.
Okay, when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Zane?
Aye.
Okay, Watson? Oh, yeah. Bozo?
Yes.
Okay, Nagaji?
Yes.
Fukumoto?
No.
Lumen?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Croft?
No.
Joanne? Okay.
No.
Okay. Diane Chong?
Yes.
Okay. Moylan?
Yes.
DeMarco?
Yes.
Okay. Patty Quano?
No.
And Mashrecky?
Yes.
I just made it.
That's 9. That means this has been adopted.
All right, thank you, Ensign, for the roll call vote. I'll next ask, I'm assuming Member Moylan would like to be the chair of the committee, but do we have any raised hands for committee chair? If so, raise your hand. All right, I'm not seeing any raised hands, but Member Moylan, you are interested in being chair of the committee, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you earlier. Okay, since there's no one else, Member Moylan is committee chair. Do we have anyone interested in being vice chair? We do need a vice chair for the committee to get off the ground. So please raise your hand if you would be interested in being vice chair alongside Member Moylan of this committee. Going once.
Oh, come on.
Going twice. Oh, Member Marco has his hand raised. Do we have any other raised hands? Okay, I see here no more. So Member DeMarco, congratulations. You are now the vice chair of the Proactive Solutions City Problems Committee. So as with the other committee, chairs and vice chairs of all committees, please follow up with Ensign to get all the rules and jump through all the procedural and administrative hoops to do all the committee stuff. I know there's a lot of rules and I don't know them off the top of my head. Again, members of our board can join committees so long as no committee has 9 or more board members in it. And members of the community who do not serve on our board are free to join either or both of the committees. All right. So everyone please do any necessary follow-ups with that. And then we're now going to go to item K in board business, which is approval of October 2nd, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? If so, please raise your hand.
Move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All right, we have a motion made by Member Kloff, seconded by Member Bosel. And Ensign, we got an email from Dylan Armstrong asking that he be noted on the minutes because he was apparently omitted from it. So can he be included in the attendance without needing an amendment? Can we just do that without an amendment? Because it's not substantive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No, if it's just amendment now, it's okay. It'll be fine.
All
We
right.
can just
Please
put it
insert.
as- Oh,
Please
sorry.
insert. Please insert that change. Put Dylan Armstrong's name in
Yeah.
the list of attendees as he requested in his email. Do we have any other discussion before we vote on approval of minutes? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing here none. So we'll try to pass this unanimously by acclamation. Are there any objections to approval of the October minutes with the addition of Dylan Armstrong's name for the record as an attendee? If so, please raise your hand or shout it out if there's any objections. Going once. Going twice. Okay, great. Minutes have been so passed unanimously by acclamation. So we're now moving to item L on the agenda, which is appointment of representatives to the Malama Manoa General Membership Meeting. So is Helen Nakano here? I saw her here earlier. Okay. So I don't see anyone here who's able to present on this, but essentially, Malama Manoa is having its general membership meeting on Wednesday, November 13th, 13th of this month, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be at Bakken Auditorium on Mid-Pac campus. And I was asked to share a flyer, so let me put that up. 1 second. Wait, sorry. One moment, please. Here we go. Sorry, I accidentally shared Michael He's petition from last meeting. Okay, here we are. Manoa Stream, clean up our Genki Bowls, the answer. So again, it's Wednesday, November 13th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Bakken Auditorium, Mid-Pacific Institute. So the idea is that Malama Manoa, led by, I think, Helen Nakano has been leading the effort on this to try and clean Manoa Stream by putting a lot of Genki balls in there to try and dissolve the muck and all the stuff at the bottom of Manoa Stream. So they had Mid-Pacific Institute students test out Genki balls in a stream or a spring that's somewhere on Mid-Pac campus. So for the general membership meeting of Malama Manoa on November 13th, they're going to have the students present their findings from having done this science experiment, and they're going to talk about how effective the Genki balls were in cleaning out that spring on Mid-Pac campus. So please attend for those of you who are interested. And this is also on the agenda to appoint representatives, because I'm probably going to be there myself as in my individual capacity, so I can be the board representative, but we were asked to send 1 or 2 representatives, I believe. So if there's anyone else who would like to be representative instead of me, or who would like to be a co-representative with me, please identify yourself, raise your hand, or shout it out, and we can do an appointment to have you also as representative to a representative of the neighborhood board to that Genki Ball event. Member Moylan, please go ahead.
I'll do it with you, but not instead of you.
Okay. We have a so is there anyone else who's interested in being representative? Because if not, it'll just be me and Member Moylan without a vote or anything. We'll just appoint it. Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing anyone else who's interested. So Member Moylan and I are going to be the board's 2 representatives to the Malama Manoa general membership meeting, which we again shared on that flyer just a minute ago. Okay. Next, we're going to something more serious. This is the chair's report on meeting with Lori Lum regarding feasibility study for the 15-acre UH Manoa Eva property that is bordered by Dole Street, University Avenue, Metcalf Street. So, Lori Lum, I met with her. She works for Watanabe Ing, and either she individually or Watanabe Ing as a company has been subcontracted by the University of Hawaii to do a feasibility study of for redeveloping or developing the block that's referred to as place bordered by Dole Street, University Avenue, and Metcalf Street, or the EVA property. And that is the block that has the University of Hawaii Lab School on it. So Lori Lum asked to meet with me 2 or 3 weeks ago. We got coffee together at Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf Manoa. And what she told me is that she, like I said, like the whole contract, there's a whole team that's been recruited by the University of Hawaii and contracted and subcontracted, and she is their public relations person. So over the course of the next year, she said next year and a half, she's doing a community survey. She's doing workshops. She's talking to she talked to me as neighborhood board chair. She's also talking to Manoa people, and I know she's talking to others as well. I think Outdoor Circle. Anyway, she's trying to see where people are at in terms of developing that block. So I told her that the position of our board, which we took a couple of years ago, is that we passed a resolution calling for the University of Hawaii Lab School, or excuse me, the University Lab School, to be able to stay at its current location on that block. I also told her that individual board members have said that they do not want that area to be commercialized, but that the board hasn't yet taken an official position in that regard. She told me that the tentative plan that they're currently hoping to do is, apparently a lot of UH students wish they had more dining options, so they're currently planning on putting more like restaurants and other places to get food on that block. And it isn't final, but that's currently the plan. So she's going to be in touch with a lot of people over the next year and a half. And I just wanted to let people know that we had that meeting. That was what I told her. That was what she told me that she's planning on doing. And for both board members and representatives of organizations who are hearing this, she'll likely be in touch with you as well in the future to try and get a sense for what your opinion is. There was a community member who saw that I put this on the agenda, and she contacted me and advised as to the Sunshine Law, because Sunshine Law says that we can't have serial communication. It's okay for 2 board members to talk about board business outside of a meeting, but it's not okay if it's 3 or more. It could violate the serial communication rule if Lori Lum or someone else from her organization talks to more than 2 of us about this topic, because that could be us committing serial communication via her. So, in the same sense that me, Member Moylan, and Member Bosel can't get together outside of a meeting and discuss board business, likewise, it would be a violation if she talked to me, then talk to Member Moylan, then talk to Member Bosel, because then she's, triangulating our opinions on things of more than just 2 people. So that's a potential sunshine violation. I was advised that apparently it's perfectly acceptable for her to approach us and say that she wants to talk to us, even if it violates sunshine. So if you are approached and you do share concerns that it's potentially a serial communication violation, then the onus is on us as board members to say that we can't have that discussion because it violates sunshine. So if she does contact any board members, she already talked to me. I don't know if she's contacted anyone else, but please let her know that this is a concern, and ask her if she's already talked to 2 board members about it. And if she says that she's already talked to 2 board members, or she can't give an answer, then you probably don't want to do it because it's likely a serial communication violation. But if she just talks to me plus 1 other person, then that will be fine. So that was just a quick update on that. Do we have any discussion on this? Tom Heinrich, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just to raise this point, if I understood what you said correctly, the concern was that a non-board member would contact multiple board members, and somehow that became a serial SERIAL communication. In my years of working with the Sunshine Law and other meetings, that has never been discussed, or my understanding as to that applying to a non-board member. It only applies to communications among members of the board. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Tom, for clarifying the rules on that one. I see raised hand from Member Boso. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I do not purport to be, an expert on this, but yeah, I think that as long as you are not trying to communicate through a third party to other board members, any member of the community or any other random group who wants to contact every single one of us is welcome to do so, as long as you're not trying to pass, we as board members are not trying to pass messages on to other board members. That would be the sunshine violation as far as I have understood it. But she is welcome to talk to as many of us as she wants to. It's just that we can't be trying to communicate with each other, we board members, through an intermediary. Is that right, Tom? That you, and as far as I feel like I'm echoing part of what you just said there.
Chair, if I may, that's a different wrinkle that I'd rather not address in terms of trying to pass messages through an intermediary. No, the language of the statute simply deals with communications between or among board members. So usually that is direct, whether it's email, oral, whatever. But you are absolutely correct that any member of the public may contact any member of the board, period. So if I understood what you first tried to say, Chair, in terms of the concern of this other person, that seems completely unfounded. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. People give me advice sometimes, and sometimes it's right, and sometimes it's wrong. So thank you, Member Bosel and Tom Heinrich, for clarifying that that's not an issue. But yeah. So in that regard, that bit, but the issue still remains that UH is apparently looking at developing that area. They've hired Watanabe Ing to do feasibility study and to get community opinions on things. So this is coming up at some point in the future. I don't know if people want to discuss this more or try to get a presentation on it. Lori Lum told me that she would likely not have a presentation at the earliest. So that's the timeline she's currently given me, but this is something that's coming down the pipe. So this is likely going to come up again at some point this term or next. So just flagging that for everyone. Does anyone have any comments that they want to make or any questions they want to ask regarding the whole feasibility study on that Eva property? Member Bolso, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I guess I would just tell this Miss Lum that, a presentation, I think that from what I've gathered from the community over the past few years is people don't necessarily need a presentation. They want to hear sort of like the earliest ideas. And I know that's difficult for people who are developing feasibility studies, but I think that my take on what a lot of people want is not to be approached once things have been really kind of zhuzhed up and finalized into a fancy PDF, and they want to hear about it as early as possible. So that's just, sort of my take on it. And they want to be able to give their opinion before people get too invested in a fancy PDF that has all these renderings of buildings. And I know that's not necessarily what she wants to hear. And it might sound kind of weird coming from me because I know how many moving parts there are in this, but that's the sentiment that I often hear from the community. So just passing that along.
All right, thank you, Member Bolso. Do we have any other comments or questions regarding Lori Lum and the brief meeting I had with her and the feasibility study that's coming down the pipe? Any other discussion on that? If not, we will move on. Okay, we're just going to do updates. So update, item letter N, update on the primary urban center development plan. I believe that will be Member Watson, but she's out today, so we'll pass on that. Letter O, update on Manoa Banyan Court. Any updates on Manoa Banyan Court?
No, I'm just gonna let folks know I've had a lot of other things going on. I have not called. I have not checked, but I have no updates. And
All right.
same for the PUCDP. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And next, letter P, update on all flood mitigation. Do we have any updates on all flood mitigation?
Chair, this is Member Fukumoto. Updates. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Member Fukumoto. Letter Q, update on Aria Lane at the former St. Francis School site. I'll just say very briefly that it's still being considered by DPP, still pending a DPP decision following the public hearing, and it's still unclear which way DPP is going to come down on it. Member DeMarco, you have a raised hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention with regard to the LOI, I think I had seen an email the city is holding another community meeting or workshop regarding potential bridge over the LOI. So it's not necessarily flood related, but kind of is since it's spanning over the canal. So I just wanted to make people aware that that was upcoming. I don't have any specific details I can share, but if you're interested, I'm sure you can find it at city website and resources. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member DeMarco. Okay, we are now moving to community concerns. So community concerns, item A is overgrown trees and shrubs threatening property and power lines. This got brought to me like a couple of months ago, but it keeps getting pushed back by other things. So now it's finally coming up. There were a couple of residents who said that there was an issue with their neighbor having overgrown trees and shrubs that are threatening their power lines. And they've been contacting elected officials and haven't heard anything back yet. And we as a board can't pass a resolution or anything to weigh in on a dispute between two private individuals, so this person and their neighbor. But I guess I would just ask, is there anything that we can do or any place we can point them to get assistance on this overgrown tree and shrubs issue? Because I do not know. So, Tom Heinrich, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Depending on the circumstances, certainly the individuals can either call the Mayor's Office of Information and Complaint in order to try to have somebody identify the location and who the owner is. If it is privately owned or whatever, then that's going to have to be done by communication between those individuals. The other thing to do is to check with the city's Division of Urban Forestry, which is part of the Department of Parks and Recreation. They're a lot slower because of all the responsibilities they have, but they might be able to provide the same info. And lastly, of course, is depending on the type of utility pole or whatever, is certainly the individual can call Hawaiian Electric. That's the best place to start because for the island of Oahu, the agreement among the utilities that utilize the utility poles is that Hawaiian Electric is responsible for the maintenance of the poles. So they can take a quick look and decide from there who may be responsible for the clearance of any vegetation for the necessary distance. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Tom. I saw a raised hand from Member Fukumoto. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, marking the retirement of Councilmember Calvin Say. When I used to work in Calvin Say's office, I knew that if a couple of neighbors in Palolo had a disagreement, Representative Say himself would go over there and try to negotiate between the two neighbors. So I don't know if our representatives will do that, but you could consider calling Representative Garrett or Senator Fukunaga and have them talk to their constituents about this particular problem. Thank you.
All right. I think you might move Fukumoto. I'll try and take that back to the person who requested that. Next, we're going to community concerns item B, dog attacks at Manoa and Triangle Park, which is the grassy area where Manoa Road and East Manoa Road split. So I have to be careful here because I don't want to say anything on any specific person or specific animal, but apparently there have been repeated issues in that Manoa Triangle Park area, which is again the area where Manoa Road and East Manoa Road split when you come into the valley. It's that grassy area in between. I've been told that there was a dog, I believe named Kiki, who got bit by another dog and died. And apparently there have been other dogs as well that have been bit and been injured. People have been bit, like people have been bit by dogs too. So I was asked to just let community members know that dog attacks in that area are becoming a problem, and I'm not sure what's going to happen in that regard, but just was asked to announce that. So do we have any discussion on that topic of dog attacks at Manoa Triangle Park? Member Bo, so please go ahead.
Sorry, were they all by the same dog?
That's what I was told, yes. And the person who told me this said that multiple people have made police reports. So again, I'm not identifying the person or their residence of the dog, but this is a known issue that HPD has been notified about. And just that this person just wanted to notify everyone that there's a safety issue there due to there being at least one dog, I think one particular dog that has done this. So please be careful at the Manoa Triangle Park area.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Thank you for the clarification, Chair. Do you know the approximate breed or size of the dog, just so that people know what to be aware of? If it's bitten humans as well?
I do not know the
Okay.
breed or size of the dog.
Thank
Apologize.
you, Chair.
Any going to community concerns item C with which was put on by Glenn Otaguro's request. If he's still, oh yep, I see him still here. And this is the buildup of silt and dirt in Manoa Stream, which he talked about briefly with Kim Sparling. But if you had more you want to say, Glenn, you can go ahead now.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I want to add a little bit more information. I know when I talk about the dirt and silt buildup, people think, oh, that's the Woodlawn Bridge, because there's a monumental amount of silt and dirt that needs to be dredged out. But yeah, I'm not talking about that area. There's a new area just along the Manoa Valley District Park, paralleling Kahiwai Place. I only noticed that because I usually don't walk along that sidewalk that parallels Manoa Stream. And when I was walking there about a little over 2 weeks ago, I noticed there was a buildup of like a berm that was on the other side of Manoa Stream that used to be part of Manoa Stream. And it didn't really catch my eye until I noticed someone was walking with their dog on this berm with had like plants growing on top of it, which was really caught me off guard because I've never seen that before. And before the 2004 flood, it used to be twice as wide, but now certain areas of the stream over there, if you're able to jump do a long jump, you can probably jump over the stream without getting your feet wet, which is getting me a little concerned. And then I did call DFM about it, and I brought it up with them before the latest near flood warning that came up 2 Saturdays ago at about 8 o'clock. And what also caught my eye was the stream during that time along the Manoa Valley District Park was all the way up to the top on the park side. So there's a little sidewalk, and it was like maybe 10, 20 feet away from the sidewalk. So I was talking to one of the neighbors over there, and she told me that normally there's a swale between two baseball fields that she used to see the water used to flow into the swale when it got a certain height, and it would reduce the height of the stream overall. But for some reason, no one's been doing any maintenance on that swale. So we're talking about two things: not only dredging part of the stream in that area, but also dredging out the swale so that the swale can do its intended purpose.
All right, thank you, Glenn. Do we have any brief discussion, questions or comments regarding that topic? Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you, Glenn, for sticking with us to the end for that agenda item. We'll go very briefly to item D on community concerns, which is other concerns not otherwise listed. Per the OIP letter, board members can't bring up a concern here, but members of the public can. So do we have any members of the public who have any concerns that they want to bring up that haven't been yet listed or otherwise listed on the agenda? Just going once, going twice. All right, looks like there's none on there. So I'm going to do announcements in just a minute, but first, I do see something in the chat that I'm going to backtrack to my report on the meeting with Lacey Goshi, just because, or she's not Lacey Goshi, but Lori Lung, just because Lori put something in the chat, and I may have articulated her position poorly earlier, so I want to make sure I do it properly. So what Lori Lung wrote in chat is, want to clarify that PBR Hawaii was retained by the University of Hawaii to prepare a development feasibility study for the EVA property, and I am a member of the project team tasked with community engagement. Goal is to improve the UH Manoa experience by providing opportunities for activity and gathering. Could include educational uses, housing, along with shops, restaurants, and cafes for students, faculty, staff, and the overall community. Project will include a robust community outreach effort currently being planned by UH and PBR. So that's what Lori wrote. And I do apologize, Lori. I did take good notes on the meeting we had, but then I lost my note card. So hopefully that I didn't do too bad a job paraphrasing what you told me during the meeting. Anyway, we're going finally to announcements, and we just have 3 announcements here. First, as mentioned earlier, announcement A, a Malama Manoa General Member 2024 Bakken Auditorium on Mid-Pacific Institute campus from 6 to 8 p.m. The event is open to the public. Students at Mid-Pacific Institute collaborate with Malama Manoa to make 250 Genki balls and tested them in the Wailele Spring for potential future use in Manoa Stream. Our next meeting will be pursuant to our vote earlier. It's going to be same time, which is 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Likewise on Zoom, it's going to be in January, but not on January 1st. It's going to be on Wednesday, January 8th. So we'll send out reminders to make sure everyone comes in on the 8th, not the 1st. That's going to be, and again, there's going to be an in-person alternative at Kapua Mahale for those who can't join us online. And the Alola rebroadcast you can watch on the 2nd and 4th Saturdays of the month at 3 p.m. or every 3rd Tuesday at 9 p.m. or on Lelo or on the Honolulu City online archives. So we have 7 minutes left before our adjournment time. Do we have any final comments or questions from any board members or anyone else who's here? Member Moylan, please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, this was the most packed agenda of any meeting since I've been on here, and you got it done early. You got the elected officials early, the way I feel they should always been treated. They didn't have to sit around for 2.5 hours before they chimed in. That's outstanding. Between you and timekeeper Zane, you did a great job. And we should all think, what was different about tonight's meeting that we managed to get this done so quickly and do them all like this? This was a really good meeting. Good job there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Moylan. Do we have any further announcements for the discussion before we adjourn? Going once, going twice. All right, seeing and hearing none, we are adjourned. See you all on the 8th of January, 7 p.m. online. Until then, take care, everyone. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.